Adriana Okonkwo had exactly 23 hours and 45 minutes to find a husband or watch everything her father built disappear forever. The phone call from Lagos came during dinner service, and she barely made it to the back hallway before the panic swallowed her whole. An ancient clause in her father's will, a greedy uncle, and a birthday she'd somehow forgotten was tomorrow. Her sisters would lose their school fees. Her mother would lose the house. All because some traditional rule said a woman needed a husband to inherit what should have been hers. She didn't mean to say it out loud, didn't mean to cry out her desperation where anyone could hear. "I have 24 hours to find a husband." The words echoed down the empty corridor, but the corridor wasn't empty. Behind the barely open door of private dining room 3, the man who controlled half of Seoul's underground sat completely still. Kwon Jae-han had heard many desperate pleas in his 14 years running the syndicate. This one was different. This one made him move. And when he stepped into that hallway and asked the crying waitress what she needed, neither of them knew they were standing at the beginning of everything. Adriana Okonkwo learned 3 things in her first week working at Gomsung Restaurant. 1. Smile even when your feet hurt. 2. Rich people tip better when you disappear into the background. 3. Never cry at work. She broke Rule 3 on a Friday night. The phone buzzed in her apron pocket at 6:15, right in the middle of dinner rush. Adriana ignored it. Her mother knew her schedule. Everyone knew her schedule. She worked Mondays through Saturdays, at 4 p.m. to midnight, serving Seoul's wealthiest people food she couldn't afford to eat. The phone buzzed again, and again. Her stomach dropped. Her mother never called twice. Something was wrong. "I need 5 minutes," Adriana told the kitchen manager, already moving toward the back hallway before he could respond. She pressed the phone to her ear. "Mama? Your uncle filed the papers this morning." No greeting. No warmth. Just that. Adriana stopped walking. The hallway stretched ahead of her, empty and too bright. "What papers?" "The estate transfer. The lawyer called me 2 hours ago. If you are not married by tomorrow night, everything goes to him. The house, the land, your sister's school fees, everything your father left us." The words came at her like punches. Adriana leaned against the wall, her free hand pressed flat against the cold surface. "That's not possible. I have time. My birthday isn't until— Your birthday is tomorrow, Adriana." Oh no. She'd lost track. Between double shifts and trying to save enough money to send home and just surviving in a city that didn't always want her here, she'd actually forgotten her own birthday. "I thought I had more time," Adriana whispered. "You don't. The will is clear. Your father put that clause in when you turned 20. He thought 7 years was enough time for any woman to find a husband." Her mother's voice cracked. "He loved you. You know he loved you. But he was traditional, and he thought he was protecting you." Adriana closed her eyes. Her father had died 3 years ago. He'd made her promise before he went that she'd take care of her mother and sisters, and he'd left everything to her to make sure she could. But he'd added that one impossible condition. Married by 27, she was 26 years and 23 hours old. "I can't find a husband by tomorrow, Mama. That's impossible." "Then your uncle gets everything, and you know what he'll do. He'll sell the land. He'll put your mother out. Your sisters will have to leave school." Her sisters. Kioma was 15. Zainab was 13. They were smart. So smart. Both of them headed for university if they could just finish secondary school. "There has to be another way," Adriana said, but she already knew there wasn't. She'd read the will. She'd talked to lawyers. The clause was legal, binding, airtight. "If there was another way, I would have found it 3 years ago." Her mother took a shaky breath. "I'm sorry, baby. I'm so sorry." The call ended. Adriana stood in the hallway, phone in hand, and felt her entire life collapse like a house with no foundation. 24 hours. She needed a husband in 24 hours. The laugh that came out of her was half sob. She pressed her hand over her mouth, but it was too late. The sound was already escaping, loud and broken, and completely unprofessional. "I have 24 hours to find a husband," she said to the empty hallway. To nobody. To the universe that was playing the cruelest joke. Her voice cracked on the last word. She didn't notice the door to private dining room 3 was open. She didn't notice the man sitting alone at the table inside had gone completely still. She didn't notice anything except the impossible weight of what she'd just lost. But Kwon Jae-han noticed her. He'd been noticing her for 19 weeks. He set down his whiskey glass with careful precision and stood up. The staff at Gumsung called him Room 3 because saying his actual name felt dangerous. He came every Friday at 6, ate alone, stayed exactly 2 hours, and tipped enough that the servers fought over who got assigned to him. Adriana had served him for the last 19 Fridays in a row. She knew his order. Whiskey, neat, the expensive Japanese kind. Grilled fish, no sauce. Rice. Green tea at the end. She knew he never looked at his phone during dinner. She knew he noticed everything in a room, but pretended not to. What she didn't know was that he owned the building. Or that he ran the kind of business people only whispered about. Or that he'd been watching her since the first time she'd smiled at the kitchen staff, and the sound of her laugh had carried all the way to his private room. Jae-han opened the door fully and stepped into the hallway. Adriana spun around, eyes wide and red. For 3 full seconds, they just stared at each other. Then her training kicked in. She straightened, wiped at her face, tried to pull together some version of professional. "I'm so sorry, sir. I didn't mean to disturb you. I'll get back to... Tell me what you need." His voice was quiet, calm, like he asked crying women to explain their problems every day. Adriana blinked. "I'm sorry. You said you have 24 hours to find a husband? Tell me why." Oh God, he'd heard everything. Heat flooded her face. "It's nothing. A family situation. Oh, I shouldn't have been talking about it at work. Please, just forget." "I don't forget things." He took 1 step closer. Not threatening, just present. "And you're standing in a hallway crying about something that's clearly not nothing. So tell me what you need." Maybe it was because she was too tired to lie. Maybe it was because he asked, like he actually wanted to know, not like he was being polite. Maybe it was because she had nothing left to lose. Adriana told him everything. The will. The clause. Her father who'd loved her, but couldn't imagine a woman protecting herself without a husband. Her uncle, who'd been circling the estate like a vulture since the funeral. Her sisters, who needed that money for school. Her mother, who would lose her home. The 24 hours. Jae-han listened without interrupting. His expression didn't change. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "I have a proposal. If you're already hooked by this story, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. Trust me, you'll want to see where this goes." Now, back to Adriana's impossible night. "What kind of proposal?" Adriana asked slowly. "A legal marriage. We file the paperwork tonight. I have a lawyer who can make it happen. By tomorrow evening, you'll be married. Your father's estate will be protected." Adriana stared at him. "You're joking. I don't joke about legal documents. You don't even know me. I know you show up on time every shift. I know you remember every regular's order. I know you're kind to the kitchen staff even when you're too busy to breathe. I know you send most of your paycheck home because I've heard you on the phone with your mother talking about exchange rates." He paused. "And I know you need a solution to an impossible problem. I'm offering you one." "Why would you do this?" Adriana's voice came out sharper than she meant it to. "People don't just offer to marry strangers. What do you want?" "My grandmother is dying." The words were flat, emotionless, but something flickered in his eyes. "She has weeks left, maybe less. Her only wish before she dies is to see me married. Not engaged, not dating. Married to someone real. Real. Everyone in my circle knows everyone else. Any woman I chose from that world, my grandmother would see through it. She'd know it was arranged. Performative." His mouth tightened. "She spent her whole life reading people. No, I can't lie to her. Not about this." Adriana processed this slowly. "So you want me to pretend to be your wife for your dying grandmother?" "Yes." "For how long?" 6 months. After that, we divorce quietly. You get your inheritance secured. I get my grandmother's peace. We both get what we need." It was insane. Completely insane. "Who are you?" Adriana asked. "Really, you eat alone in private dining rooms. You tip like money means nothing. People are scared of you. So who are you? Jaehan's expression didn't change. I'll answer that question fully and honestly before you sign any papers. You have my word. Your word. Yes. Adriana looked at him. Really looked. He was maybe 8 years older than her, dressed simply, but everything about him screamed money and control. His face was hard to read. He stood like someone who'd never been surprised by anything in his life. He was also offering her the only solution she had. If I say yes, she said carefully, I want things in writing. Every detail. What you expect from me. What I get in return. The divorce terms. Everything. Something almost like approval crossed his face. My lawyer will draw up a contract tonight. You can read every word. Ask any question. If you don't like something, we negotiate. I want to know who you are before I agree to anything. Fair. And I need to think about this. You have 24 hours to solve an impossible problem. How much time do you need to think? Adriana wanted to argue, but he was right. What was she going to do? Spend the night researching marriage of convenience laws? She'd already looked into it 2 years ago when she first understood the will's deadline was real. She knew it would work, legally. The question was whether she trusted this man. She didn't know him, but she also didn't have options. 2 hours, she said. Give me 2 hours to finish my shift and actually think. Then I'll give you an answer. Jaehan pulled out his phone, typed something, and showed her the screen. A phone number. Call me when you decide. I'll have my lawyer on standby either way. Adriana saved the number with shaking hands. She went back to work in a daze, served tables, smiled, brought drinks. Her mind was spinning the entire time. This was crazy. This was her only option. This was crazy. At 8 o'clock, she took her break in the staff room and called her best friend Nkichi. Girl, you sound weird. What's wrong? Adriana explained the whole thing at a rush. The deadline, the stranger, the offer. Nkichi was quiet for a long moment. Then, okay. First, what's his name? Kwon Jae-han. More silence. Then, very quietly, oh, no. Adriana's stomach dropped. What? Who is he? You know how I told you my brother works in finance? Like the kind of finance where you don't ask too many questions? Yes? He's mentioned that name. Adriana, this man is not just rich. He runs things. Like actual organized things. The kind of things that have territories and rules and people who disappear if they break them. The hallway tilted slightly. He's a criminal? He's someone very powerful in a world that doesn't follow normal laws. My brother says the Kwon family controls half of Gangnam's real business, not restaurants and shops. The real business. Adriana closed her eyes. So I should say, no. I didn't say that. Nkichi, look, I'm just telling you who he is. What you do with that information is up to you. But Adriana, think about this. Why would a man like that need to fake a marriage? He could have any woman he wants. He said his grandmother is dying and she wants to see him with someone real. And you believe that? Did she? Adriana thought about the way he'd stood in the hallway, the way he'd asked what she needed, not what was wrong, the complete absence of pity in his voice. I think he was telling the truth about his grandmother, she said slowly. I don't know about the rest. Then you need to decide if you trust him enough to gamble on this, because that's what this is. A gamble. Your inheritance against 6 months of your life tied to a man you don't know. After the call ended, Adriana sat alone in the staff room and let herself really think. If she said no, she lost everything tomorrow. Her sisters would have to leave school. Her mother would lose her home. 3 years of her father's hard work, gone to an uncle who'd never cared about any of them. If she said yes, she married a stranger. A dangerous stranger. But she got to keep her family's future. 6 months. She could survive anything for 6 months. Adriana pulled out her phone and called the number Jaehan had given her. He answered on the first ring. Yes? I need you to answer my question first. Who are you? What do you actually do? I run a syndicate. We control territory, businesses, almost certain operations in Seoul that exist outside legal channels. I inherited it from my father. I've run it for 14 years. The honesty was almost worse than a lie would have been. So, you're telling me you're a criminal. I'm telling you, I operate in spaces the law doesn't reach. Whether that makes me a criminal depends on your definition. That's not comforting. It's not meant to be comforting. It's meant to be true. You asked who I am. That's who I am. Adriana took a breath. If I marry you, am I in danger? No. How can you promise that? Because nobody touches what's mine. If you become my wife, even temporarily, you become untouchable. That's how this world works. Something about the certainty in his voice made her believe him. I want the contract to say you'll never involve me in anything illegal. I won't be part of your business. I won't know details. I just exist as your wife for family appearances. Agreed. And after 6 months, the divorce is clean. No strings, no complications. Agreed. And you'll pay for my sister's school fees during the 6 months, all of them. So my family doesn't have to worry. A pause. Then, yes. Adriana closed her eyes. She was really doing this. Okay, she whispered. Yes, I'll marry you. I'll send a car to pick you up when your shift ends. We'll meet with my lawyer tonight and finalize everything. Wait, tonight? We're really doing this tonight? You have 24 hours. We need at least 12 of them to process the paperwork properly. So yes, tonight. The call ended before she could respond. Adriana sat in the staff room, phone in hand, and wondered if she'd just made the best or worst decision of her life. At midnight, when her shift ended, there was a black car waiting outside the staff entrance. The driver opened the door without a word. Adriana got in. The car was quiet and moved through Seoul's late-night streets like water. Adriana watched the city pass by and tried to remember how to breathe. They pulled up in front of a building in Hanam-dong. The driver opened her door. An older man in a perfect suit waited at the entrance. Miss Okonkwo, I'm Park Sung-min, Mr. Kwan's head of security. Please follow me. Security. Right. Because of course, a man like Jae-han had security. They rode an elevator to the top floor. The doors opened directly into an apartment. Not an apartment. A space. Clean lines, dark furniture. Windows that showed all of Seoul spread out like scattered light. Jae-han stood near those windows, still in the same clothes from the restaurant. He turned when she entered. Thank you for coming. Did I have a choice? The words came out sharper than she meant. His mouth twitched, almost a smile. Yes, you always have a choice. A woman in glasses appeared from another room. Miss Okonkwo, I'm attorney Han Mi-sun. I'll be handling your paperwork tonight. For the next 2 hours, Adriana read contracts. Every word, every clause, every detail about what this marriage meant legally, financially, practically. She asked questions. Attorney Han answered them patiently. The contract was clear. 6 months. She would live in Jae-han's home, attend family events as needed, present as his wife in public. In exchange, thought her father's estate would be protected, her sister's school fees paid, and at the end of 6 months, she'd get a divorce settlement that made her hand shake when she saw the number. This is too much money, she said, pointing at the divorce clause. It's fair compensation for 6 months of your life, Jae-han said from where he sat across the table. It's more money than I'd make in 5 years. Consider it hazard pay for dealing with my family. Attorney Han made a small sound that might have been a laugh. Adriana looked at the number again. With that money, she could go back to school, actually finish her degree, maybe start the catering business she'd dreamed about since she was 16. I want one more thing in the contract, she said. Jae-han raised an eyebrow. What? Honesty. When we're alone, no lies. I don't care what we have to pretend in public, but when it's just us, we tell the truth, even if it's uncomfortable. He studied her for a long moment. Agreed. Attorney Han typed the addition into the contract, printed new copies, set them on the table. If you both sign, I'll file everything tonight. The marriage will be legal by morning. Adriana picked up the pen. Her hand shook. She thought about her sisters, her mother, the house her father built with his own hands. She signed. Jae-han signed next to her, his signature sharp and quick. Congratulations, Attorney Han said dryly. You're married. Adriana set down the pen and wondered what she'd just done. You should eat something, Jae-han said, standing up. You worked an 8-hour shift and then read legal documents for 2 hours. When did you last eat? I don't remember. He disappeared into the kitchen. Adriana heard cabinets opening, the sound of something being heated up. Park Sung-min, who'd been standing silently by the door this whole time, cleared his throat. Miss Okonkwo, may I speak with you privately? Adriana followed him onto the apartment's terrace. Seoul spread out below them, a living organism of light and sound. You can still leave, Sung-min said quietly. The papers are filed, but they're not processed. You could walk away right now, and there would be no consequences. Why are you telling me this? Because I've worked for Jae-han for 9 years. I've seen what this life does to people, and you seem like someone who doesn't understand what you just signed up for. He told me what he does. He told you the basics. But there's a difference between knowing something and living it. Sung-min looked at her seriously. This world is not kind. The people in it are not kind. You'll be watched, judged. Some of them will hate you just for existing next to him. Because I'm not Korean. Because you're not one of them. Because you came from nowhere. Because you're real, and they'll smell that from a mile away. He paused. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to prepare you. Adriana gripped the terrace railing. Can I ask you something? Yes. Is he a good person? Sung-min was quiet for a long moment. He's fair. He keeps his word. He doesn't hurt people unless they hurt his people first. In this world, that's as close to good as you get. That's not really an answer. It's the only answer I have. They went back inside. Jae-han had set out rice, soup, and some kind of stew that smelled incredible. Sit, he said. Adriana sat. She hadn't realized how hungry she was until the first bite hit her tongue. They ate in silence. It should have been awkward, but somehow it wasn't. When she finished, Jae-han said, I'll show you your room. He led her down a hallway to a bedroom that was bigger than her entire apartment. Clean, simple, untouched. The bathroom is through there. I had some clothes brought in that should fit you. Tomorrow, we'll get whatever else you need. Adriana turned to look at him. He stood in the doorway, careful not to cross the threshold. Where's your room? She asked. Other end of the hall. No, this is a legal arrangement, not a real marriage. You have your space. I have mine. Relief flooded through her. Okay, it's a good. He turned to leave, then stopped. Adriana. It was the first time he'd said her name. Something about hearing it in his voice made her stomach flip. Yes? You asked earlier why I'm doing this. The truth is, my grandmother raised me after my parents died. She's the only person who ever cared whether I lived or died. She's dying now, and her last wish is to see me married to someone real. Someone who chose me, not my money or my name. He met her eyes. You didn't choose me, but you're more real than anyone I've ever met. That's enough. He left before she could respond. Adriana closed the door and leaned against it. She was married. To a stranger. To a criminal. She should be terrified. Instead, she pulled out her phone and called her mother. Mama, I'm getting married. The paperwork will be done by tomorrow. And the estate is safe. Her mother sucked in a breath. What? To who? How? I'll explain everything later. But it's legal and it's real. And Uncle can't touch anything now. Adriana, what did you do? What I had to do. Tell the girls I love them. I'll call you tomorrow. She ended the call before her mother could ask more questions. Then she sat on the edge of the bed in her new room, in her new husband's home, and tried to understand what her life had just become. In another room down the hall, Jae-han stood by his window and looked out at the city he controlled. He'd just married a woman he barely knew. It was tactical, strategic, a solution to a problem. That's what he told himself. But he'd been watching Adriana for 19 weeks. He knew how she moved through a room. He knew the sound of her laugh. He knew she was kind, in a world that punished kindness. And when he'd heard her crying in that hallway, something in him had made a decision before his brain caught up. He told himself it was about his grandmother. He was very good at lying to himself. Sung-min appeared in the doorway. She's in her room. I told her she could still leave. I know. I heard you. And she stayed. That doesn't mean she'll stay tomorrow when this becomes real. Jae-han turned from the window. Then I'll deal with that tomorrow. You like her? I don't know her. That's not what I said. Jae-han looked at his oldest friend. Don't. Don't what? Point out that you just legally tied yourself to a woman you've been watching for months? And that you could have solved this grandmother situation 100 different ways, but you chose this one? It was practical. It was impulsive. You're never impulsive. She needed help. I could help her. That's all this is. Sungmin shook his head slowly. Keep telling yourself that. He left. Jae-han stood alone in his room and wondered, not for the first time that night, what he'd just set in motion. In her room, Adriana finally changed out of her work clothes. The new clothes Jae-han had mentioned were in the closet. Simple things. Comfortable. Exactly her size, which meant he'd paid attention. That thought sat uncomfortably in her chest. She lay down on the bed. It was too soft. Too big. Everything about this place was too much. Tomorrow she'd be legally married. Tomorrow her family's future would be secure. And tomorrow she'd start 6 months of pretending to be someone's wife. She should sleep. She needed to sleep. Instead, she stared at the ceiling and thought about the way Jae-han had said her name, like he'd been practicing it. Adriana woke up confused. The bed was too soft. The room was too quiet. The ceiling was the wrong color. Then she remembered. She was married. She sat up fast, heart pounding. Sunlight poured through windows she didn't recognize. Her phone said 7:30. She'd slept maybe 4 hours. There was a knock on the door. Yes? Her voice came out rough. Breakfast is ready when you are. Jae-han's voice came through the door. No rush. She heard his footsteps retreat down the hallway. Adriana got up and stared at herself in the bathroom mirror. Same face, same person, completely different life. She showered quickly, changed into the clothes from the closet, jeans and a soft sweater that fit perfectly, and followed the smell of coffee. The kitchen was all clean lines and marble. Jae-han stood at the counter, pouring coffee into 2 mugs. He'd changed into different clothes, dark and simple. He looked like he'd slept fine. Good morning, he said. Morning. Adriana sat at the counter because standing felt too awkward. You didn't have to make breakfast. I didn't. Mrs. Lim comes in at 6. She cooks. He slid a mug toward her. Milk? Sugar? Both. He added them without asking how much. Got it exactly right. And Adriana realized he'd watched her make coffee at the restaurant. The thought made something flip in her stomach. An older woman appeared from somewhere with plates of food. She looked at Adriana with open curiosity but said nothing. Mrs. Lim, this is Adriana. My wife. Jae-han said it like he was introducing a business associate. Adriana, this is Mrs. Lim. She manages the house. Mrs. Lim's eyes went wide. Then she recovered, bowed slightly, and said something in rapid Korean. She says welcome and congratulations, Jae-han translated. Thank you, Adriana said in Korean, one of the few phrases she knew well. Mrs. Lim's face broke into a smile. They ate in silence. The food was simple. Rice, eggs, vegetables, soup. Adriana was too nervous to taste any of it properly. Your mother will want to know details, Jae-han said finally. What are you going to tell her? The truth, that we got married to solve a legal problem. Will she believe that's all it is? Adriana thought about her mother, who could read her like a book even over the phone. Probably not. But I'll try. You could tell her we met at the restaurant, that we've known each other for a while. It's not a lie. It's not exactly the truth either. The truth is we barely know each other, and we got married in 12 hours. That sounds insane. It is insane. He almost smiled. Fair point. Adriana set down her chopsticks. Can I ask you something? You can ask me anything. That was the agreement. Do you regret this, now that it's morning and real? Jae-han looked at her directly. His eyes were dark and hard to read. I don't regret things. I make decisions, and I follow through. I decided to marry you. So no, I don't regret it. That's not really an answer. It's the only answer I have right now. He paused. Mom, do you regret it? Adriana thought about her sisters staying in school, her mother keeping her home, the future her father had wanted for them, secured. No, I don't regret it. Good. They finished breakfast in more silence. Mrs. Lim cleared the plates and disappeared again. "I need to make some calls," Jae-han said, standing. "You should call your family. Let them know everything is settled. Attorney Han will send the estate documents to your mother's lawyer by this afternoon." "That fast?" "I told you. When I decide something, I follow through." He left the kitchen. Adriana pulled out her phone and stared at her mother's number for a full minute before calling. Her mother answered immediately. "Explain. Now." "Good morning to you too, Mama." "Don't." "Good morning, me. You called last night and said you're getting married." To who? How? Why didn't you tell me you were even seeing someone?" Adriana took a breath. "His name is Kwon Jae-han. He's Korean. We met at the restaurant where I work. We've known each other for a while." "All technically true." "And you decided to marry him in 24 hours?" "The timing was because of Papa's will. We were going to wait, but then the deadline happened and we just did it fast." "How long is a while?" "A few months." "Also technically true." She'd known of him for months. Her mother was quiet for a long moment. "Are you safe?" The question hit Adriana in the chest. "Yes, Mama. I'm safe." "Are you happy?" That one was harder. "I'm okay. This is good. It's going to be fine." "That's not what I asked." "I know." Another pause. Then her mother sighed. "Your sisters want to talk to you." So they're screaming in the background. The phone rustled, and suddenly Shioma's voice burst through. "You got married and didn't tell us. Are you serious right now? I'm sorry. It happened so fast." "Is he cute?" That was Zainab, yelling from somewhere nearby. "Give me the phone." More rustling. Then Zainab. "Sis, you have to send pictures. Is he tall? Does he treat you good?" Adriana found herself smiling despite everything. "He's tall. And yes, he treats me well." "When can we meet him?" "Soon. I promise. But right now, I need to get settled, okay? The important thing is the estate is protected. Uncle can't touch anything now." "Who cares about that?" Kioma said. "We want to know about your husband." They talked for 20 more minutes. Her sisters asked 1,000 questions. Adriana answered what she could and dodged the rest. When they finally hung up, she felt exhausted and homesick and weirdly lighter all at once. She found Jae-han in a room that was clearly an office. He sat behind a desk, looking at a computer screen with the kind of focus that made her not want to interrupt. He glanced up. "Everything okay?" "My sisters want pictures of you." That almost smile again. "Of me?" "They want to make sure you're not ugly." "And are you going to tell them I'm not?" The question caught her off guard. Was he fishing for a compliment? No, his face was completely serious. "I'll send them a picture and let them decide," Adriana said. "Fair enough." She turned to leave, then stopped. "What happens now? I mean, what do I do today? Do you have rules, expectations? This is your home now. Do whatever you want." "That's not helpful." Jae-han leaned back in his chair. "I work most of the day, usually from here. Sometimes I go out for meetings. Mrs. Lim is here until 4. Sungmin and the security team are around, but they stay out of the way unless needed. You're free to go wherever you want. Do whatever you want. This isn't a prison. But I'm supposed to be your wife. You are my wife, legally. But that doesn't mean you're trapped here." Adriana processed this. "When do I meet your grandmother?" "Tomorrow. I'll take you to see her tomorrow afternoon. That gives you today to settle in." "Okay." She went back to her room and sat on the bed. Her phone buzzed. A text from Nkechi. "Girl, you really did it? You married him?" Adriana typed back. "Yes, I'm at his place now." 3 dots appeared. Then, "How is it?" "Weird." "He's nice?" "I think." "I don't know. This is so strange." "Do you feel safe?" Adriana looked around the beautiful empty room. "Yeah, I do." "Then take it one day at a time. You got this." Adriana spent the rest of the morning unpacking the small bag she'd brought with her. Her entire life fit into one duffel bag. Looking at it spread out in the massive closet made her feel small. Mrs. Lim appeared around noon with lunch. She said something in Korean, gesturing at the food. "Thank you," Adriana said. Kamsahamnida." Mrs. Lim beamed and said something else Adriana didn't understand. "She says you have a good accent." Jae-han's voice came from the doorway. He looked at Mrs. Lim and said something in Korean. She nodded and left. I told her you're learning, he said. She'll try to teach you if you want. That would be nice. He gestured to the food. Eat. Then we should talk about tomorrow. They sat in the living room after lunch. Jaehan explained his grandmother's situation. Stage 4, cancer. Weeks left, maybe a month. She was sharp, smart, missed nothing. She's going to know this happened fast, he said. I'm going to tell her the truth, that we met, that circumstances pushed up our timeline, that the marriage is legal and real, but not why we really did it. No, not that part. What if she asks questions I don't know how to answer? Then tell her we're still learning about each other. That's true. He paused. My grandmother values honesty. Don't lie to her. If you don't know something, say so. What's her name? Kwan Hana. You'll call her Halmoni, or it means grandmother. Adriana repeated it quietly. Halmoni. Good. That night, Jaehan had a business dinner. He left at 6. Adriana ate alone in the too quiet apartment and tried not to think about how strange this all was. She called in Keiichi again. How's day 1 of married life? Quiet. He works a lot. The house is beautiful, but it feels like a museum. Have you guys talked? Like really talked? Not really. Everything is very polite. Very careful. That's probably good. Don't rush things. After the call, Adriana wandered the apartment. It was huge, clean, expensive, empty. There were no photos anywhere, no personal items. Nothing that said a real person lived here. She found herself in the kitchen, the only room that felt slightly warm. Mrs. Lim had left the counter spotless. Adriana opened the fridge. It was fully stocked. She looked through the cabinets, found rice, spices, oil. She started cooking. She made jollof rice the way her mother taught her, the way that made the whole house smell like home. She chopped vegetables, fried plantains, made the pepper sauce exactly right. She didn't know why she was doing it. Maybe because she needed to do something with her hands. Maybe because she missed home so much it hurt. The door opened at 9. She heard Jaehan come in, heard him stop in the hallway. He appeared in the kitchen doorway. What is that smell? Dinner. I made dinner. Adriana gestured at the food. I couldn't sleep. I needed to do something. Is that okay? I can clean everything up. You cooked. Yes, I'm sorry, I should have asked first. No. He stepped closer to the stove. What is it? Jollof rice. It's Nigerian, West African. I made plantains too and some pepper chicken. And I made too much. Way too much. I wasn't thinking. Jaehan looked at the food with an expression she couldn't read. I've never had Nigerian food. Oh, well, you can try it if you want. Or not. No pressure. He got a plate without answering, served himself, sat at the counter. Adriana watched him take the first bite and held her breath. His eyes widened slightly. This is good, he said quietly. This is really good. Relief flooded through her. Yeah? Yeah. He took another bite. Why did you apologize for cooking? Because it's your kitchen, your space. I didn't want to overstep. Adriana, he set down his fork. I told you this morning, this is your home now. You can cook whenever you want. You can do whatever you want. And stop apologizing for existing here. The words hit her harder than they should have. Okay, she whispered. They ate together in comfortable silence. When he finished, he actually served himself more. My grandmother is going to love you, he said suddenly. Why? Because you're real. Because you make food that tastes like someone cares. Because in 60 seconds, you made this kitchen feel more alive than it's ever been. He stood, took his plate to the sink. Thank you for dinner. He left before she could respond. Adriana cleaned the kitchen slowly, thinking about the way he'd said that. Like it meant something. The next afternoon, a car took them to a care facility in Seongbuk-dong. Adriana wore a simple dress. Jaehan had told her to dress comfortably, that his grandmother didn't care about fancy things. They rode the elevator to the 3rd floor. Jaehan's whole energy had changed. He was tense in a way she hadn't seen before. Are you nervous? She asked. No. You're a terrible liar. He glanced at her. I don't want her to be disappointed. In me? In the situation. She'll know this happened fast. She'll wonder why. The elevator doors opened. A nurse greeted them and led them to a private room. It was sunny, filled with plants and photographs. An old woman sat in a chair by the window. She turned when they entered, and her whole face lit up. Jae-han. He moved across the room quickly, knelt beside her chair, took her hands. They spoke in Korean, fast and warm. Adriana stood by the door, feeling like an intruder. Then the grandmother looked past Jae-han directly at her. Come here, child. Let me see you. Adriana moved forward slowly. Up close, Kwan Hana was tiny and frail, but her eyes were bright and sharp. Halmoni, this is Adriana, my wife. Hana reached out and took Adriana's hands, studied her face for a long moment. Then she said something in Korean that made Jae-han's face do something complicated. What did she say? Adriana asked. She said you have kind eyes, and that I chose well. Hana pulled Adriana down to sit beside her. She spoke slowly in Korean, and Jae-han translated. She wants to know how we met. At the restaurant where I worked, he was a regular customer. More Korean. Jae-han translated again. She asks if I was a good tipper. Adriana couldn't help but smile. The best. Hana laughed, a sound like wind chimes. They talked for an hour. Hana asked questions about Adriana's family, or her life and soul, what she liked to cook. She listened to every answer like it mattered. At one point, she said something that made Jae-han hesitate before translating. She says she knows this happened quickly. She knows I wasn't planning to marry anyone. But she says sometimes the best things happen when we stop planning. Adriana looked at the old woman and saw understanding in her eyes. She knows, Adriana thought. She knows this isn't a normal marriage. But Hana just smiled and patted her hand. Before they left, Hana pulled Adriana close and whispered something in English, heavily accented but clear. He needs someone like you, someone warm. Don't let him hide from that. In the car going home, Jae-han was quiet. Your grandmother is amazing, Adriana said finally. She liked you. How do you know? Because she spoke to you in English at the end. She only does that when she trusts someone. What if she hadn't liked me? Then this would have been much more complicated. He looked out the window. She's dying. I've known it for months, but seeing her today, she's weaker. It's getting close. I'm sorry. Don't be. She's not afraid. She's ready. She just wanted to see this first. He paused. Thank you for doing this, for meeting her, for being kind. I wasn't acting. She's genuinely lovely. Something in his expression shifted. I know you weren't acting. That's why it worked. That night, Adriana couldn't sleep. She went to the kitchen at midnight and found Sungmin sitting at the counter, eating leftover jollof rice. He froze when he saw her. Sorry, he said quickly. Mrs. Lim said I could eat the leftovers. Of course you can. I made way too much. Adriana sat across from him. Is it good? It's incredible. What is this? Jollof rice, Nigerian. Can you teach Mrs. Lim how to make it? Adriana laughed. Sure. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Sungmin said, You met Halmoni today. Yes? What did you think? I think she's dying and she's not afraid, and that takes more courage than I have. Sungmin nodded slowly. She raised Jae-han after his parents died. Did he tell you that? Yes. He was 14, angry, violent. She was the only person who could reach him. She turned him into who he is now. Adriana processed this. What happened to his parents? That's his story to tell, not mine. Sungmin stood, rinsed his plate. But I'll tell you this. He's never brought anyone to meet her before. Not once in all the years I've known him. You're the first. He left before she could ask what that meant. Adriana sat alone in the kitchen and thought about Jae-han at 14, angry and lost. About the grandmother who saved him. About the marriage they'd built on necessity and lies. If you're still with me at this point, let me know in the comments what you think of Adriana's decision. And hey, maybe drop a like if you're enjoying this story. Now let's get back to what happens next. The days started to blur into a routine. Mornings with quiet breakfasts, Jae-han working in his office, Adriana exploring the neighborhood, taking longer Korean lessons online, cooking in the evenings. She started to recognize the security team. Sungmin was the serious one. There was a younger guy named Kim Min-jae who made jokes. A driver named Lee who never spoke but always opened her door. They ate together. Adriana told him about her day, the ajuma at the market who'd helped her find ingredients, the Korean drama Mrs. Lim made her watch. Jae-han listened like every word mattered. "Can I ask you something?" Adriana said. "Yes." "What happened to your parents?" His face went carefully blank. "What did Sungmin tell you?" "Just that you were 14 when they died, that your grandmother raised you." Jae-han set down his chopsticks. For a moment she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, "My father ran what I run now. The syndicate. He had enemies. Someone decided to send a message. Car bomb. Well, my mother was with him. I was supposed to be too, but I was angry about something stupid. I don't even remember what. So I stayed home." Adriana's chest tightened. "I'm sorry. It was 20 years ago. That doesn't make it hurt less." He looked at her directly. "No, it doesn't. Is that why you do what you do? Because of your father?" "I do what I do because it's what I know. Because I'm good at it. Because the alternative was letting everything he built fall apart." He paused. "And because I was very angry for a very long time. And this gave me somewhere to put that anger." "Are you still angry?" "Not like I was. Halmoni helped with that. She made me understand that anger without purpose just destroys you." They sat in silence for a moment. "Thank you for telling me," Adriana said quietly. "You asked, when we agreed on honesty." That night, Adriana lay in bed and thought about Jae-han at 14, losing everything, growing up in a world of violence, becoming someone who controlled that violence instead of being destroyed by it. She thought about the way he'd looked when he talked about his grandmother. She thought about the careful distance he kept from everyone and everything. And she thought about the way that distance seemed slightly smaller when he was sitting across from her at dinner. 3 weeks in, they had their first public appearance together, a charity gala. Black tie, Jae-han's business world. Adriana spent the afternoon getting ready. A stylist came to the apartment, brought 3 dresses, did her hair and makeup. When she walked out of her room, Jae-han was waiting in the living room. He looked up and went completely still. "Is it too much?" Adriana asked, suddenly self-conscious. "No, you look beautiful." The way he said it made her skin feel warm. In the car, he briefed her on who would be there, names, faces, what they did. She tried to remember it all, but there were too many. "Just stay close to me," he said finally. "If anyone makes you uncomfortable, tell me." "I'll be fine." "Adriana." "What?" "These people are not kind. They're going to stare. They're going to whisper. Some of them will say things designed to make you feel small." His voice was hard. "I need you to tell me if that happens." "So you can do what?" "Make it stop." The gala was in a hotel ballroom that looked like it cost more money than Adriana had seen in her life. Crystal chandeliers, marble floors, and people dressed like they were attending a royal wedding. The stares started immediately. She felt every single one. Jae-han's hand settled on the small of her back, warm and steady. He guided her through the room, introducing her to people whose names she forgot immediately. They smiled. They said congratulations. They looked at her like she was an exotic animal at a zoo. One woman, dripping in diamonds, said in perfect English, "How refreshing that Jae-han found someone so unique." The word unique landed like a slap. "Thank you," Adriana said with her brightest smile. "I think being unique is better than being boring." The woman's smile froze. Jae-han's hand tightened slightly on her back. When they moved away, he leaned down and whispered, "That was perfect." She was being a jerk. "I know. Now you handled it better than I would have." They made it through dinner, through speeches, through endless small talk. Then a man approached their table. Older, sharp suit, sharper eyes. "Jae-han, I heard you got married. I had to see for myself." "Mr. Cho," Jae-han's voice went colder. "This is my wife, Adriana." Mr. Cho looked at her like she was something he might step on. "Interesting choice. Very unexpected." "That's what makes it interesting," Jae-han said. "I'm sure. Though one wonders about the timing. So sudden. Almost like there was some urgent reason." Adriana felt Jaehan tense beside her. The timing, she said clearly, was because when you know, you know. Why wait? Mr. Cho's eyes narrowed. Indeed. Well, congratulations. I'm sure this will be very educational for both of you. He walked away. Who was that? Adriana asked. Someone who thinks he's more important than he is. Jaehan stood. We're leaving. We just got here. We've been here long enough. Come on. In the car, his jaw was tight. Are you angry? Adriana asked. Yes. At me? At him. At everyone in that room who looked at you like you didn't belong. He turned to face her. You handled it perfectly. Better than I had any right to expect. But I hated every second of it. I'm used to people staring. You shouldn't have to be. Something about the quiet fury in his voice made her chest feel tight. It's okay, she said softly. Really? It's not okay. They drove in silence for a while. Then Adriana said, Can I ask you something? Always. Why did that man think our timing was suspicious? Jaehan was quiet for a moment. Because in my world, marriage is usually strategic, an alliance, a merger. Me marrying someone outside that world, someone no one knows, it raises questions. About what? About why I did it, what I'm hiding, what advantage I'm trying to gain. But you're not hiding anything. He looked at her strangely. Aren't I? Before she could ask what that meant, they arrived home. Adriana went to change. When she came back to the kitchen, still in the beautiful dress but barefoot, Sung-min was there, making tea. How was it? He asked. Terrible. Wonderful. I don't know. She sat at the counter. Do you go to those things? Sometimes. When Jaehan needs extra security. Does he have a lot of enemies? In his line of work, everyone has enemies. That's comforting. Sung-min smiled slightly. You did well tonight. I heard about Mr. Cho. How did you already hear about that? I have sources. He poured tea into 2 cups. For what it's worth, you're good for him. I'm a contract employee. I'm here for 6 months. You're here right now. And right now, he's different than I've seen him in years. Different how? He smiles sometimes. He comes home earlier. He actually eats dinner instead of working through it. Sung-min slid a cup toward her. That's because of you. That's because he has someone in his space. Anyone would change his routine. You keep telling yourself that. After Sung-min left, Adriana sat alone with her tea. 4 weeks into a 6-month arrangement. 2 months left. The thought made something twist in her stomach. She told herself it was just anxiety about what came next, where she'd live after this, what she'd do. She told herself it had nothing to do with the way Jaehan had looked at her tonight, or the way his hand had felt on her back, or the way he'd said, "You're beautiful," like it was a fact, not a compliment. She was very good at lying to herself. Upstairs, Jaehan stood in his room and tried not to think about Adriana in that dress, or the way she'd handled herself tonight with more grace than anyone he knew, or the way something in him had wanted to destroy Mr. Cho for looking at her like that. He'd married her for practical reasons, a solution to a problem. That's what he kept telling himself. He was lying, and he knew it. Week 5 started with a phone call that made Adriana's blood run cold. I'm coming to Seoul, her mother's voice. No greeting, just that. What? When? Or why? Because my daughter got married, and I haven't met her husband. I'm coming next week. I already bought the ticket. Adriana sat down hard on her bed. Mama, you can't just show up. I can, and I am, unless you're hiding something from me. I'm not hiding anything. Good. Then I'll see you Tuesday. The call ended. Adriana found Jaehan in his office. He looked up when she knocked. My mother is coming. Next week. She wants to meet you. He set down his pen. Okay? Okay? That's all you have to say? What do you want me to say? She's going to have questions. She's going to watch us. My mother doesn't miss anything. Adriana paced the room. She's going to know this isn't normal. Jaehan stood up. Then we make it look normal. How? We spend the next week acting like a real married couple. Learn each other's habits. Build a story that makes sense. When she gets here, we'll be prepared. You make it sound simple. It is simple. We're already living together. We already eat dinner together most nights. We just need to look more comfortable with each other. Adriana stopped pacing. What does that mean? It means we need to act like we're used to being close, like touching each other isn't strange. Her stomach flipped. Oh, unless that makes you uncomfortable. No, it's fine. It's practical. She was definitely lying. When do we start? Now. For the next week, things shifted. Jaihan started sitting closer to her at dinner. Their knees would bump under the table, and neither of them would move away. He'd put his hand on her shoulder when he passed behind her chair. She'd touch his arm when she was talking, don't let her hand rest there for an extra second. They watched a movie together on the couch, started out on opposite ends, ended with her feet tucked under her, and him close enough that she could feel the warmth of him. It was all practice, all preparation. That's what Adriana told herself. But when his hand brushed hers reaching for the remote, and neither of them pulled away, it didn't feel like practice. Tell me about your mother, Jaihan said one night over dinner. What should I know? She's smart, scary smart. She raised 4 kids mostly alone after my dad got sick. She can read people in about 30 seconds. What will she ask me? Everything. How we met. When you knew you wanted to marry me. What your intentions are. Whether you're treating me well. Adriana paused. Well, she's going to want to know you're good enough for me. Am I? The question caught her off guard. What? Good enough for you, in her eyes. I don't know. Are you? He looked at her across the table. Probably not. But I'll try to convince her otherwise. Tuesday came too fast. Adriana went to the airport alone. Her mother came through arrivals looking exactly the same, elegant and tired and seeing everything. They hugged hard. Let me look at you, her mother said, holding her at arm's length. You look different. Different how? I don't know yet. I'll figure it out. In the car ride home, her mother asked casual questions that weren't casual at all, about the apartment, about Jaihan's work, about how they spent their time. Adriana answered carefully, stuck to the story they'd built, met at the restaurant, got to know each other slowly, fell for each other faster than expected. Her mother listened to every word, and Adriana knew she was filing it all away. Jaihan was waiting when they arrived. He'd come home early from work. He greeted her mother with perfect politeness, took her bags, showed her to the guest room they'd prepared. Thank you for having me in your home, Adriana's mother said. It's Adriana's home too. Your family is always welcome. At dinner, Adriana watched her mother watch them. She saw her mother notice the way Jaihan poured Adriana's water without asking. The way Adriana passed him dishes before he reached for them. The small, comfortable silences between them. Her mother didn't miss a thing. After dinner, while Jaihan took a work call, Adriana's mother pulled her into the guest room. Sit, Adriana sat. Her mother looked at her for a long moment. That man watches you like you're the only person in the room. Mama, I'm not asking you anything. I'm telling you what I see. She paused. When you talk about how you met, you're careful. Too careful. Like you rehearsed it. Adriana's heart started pounding. We just want to tell it the same way. Or you're hiding how it really happened. Her mother tilted her head. I know about your father's will. I know the deadline. I'm not stupid. I never said you were. So I'm going to ask you once. Did you marry this man because you had to? Adriana couldn't lie. Not directly. Not to her mother. Yes, she whispered. At first. But it's not like that anymore. What is it like now? I don't know. Complicated. Her mother reached out and took her hand. Does he treat you well? Yes. Do you feel safe? Yes. Do you love him? Adriana's breath caught. Mama, it's only been a few weeks. That's not what I asked. I don't know. Maybe. I think I might be starting to. Her mother squeezed her hand. Then stop being so careful around each other. Stop acting like you have to prove something. Just be. That night, Adriana couldn't sleep. She went to the kitchen at midnight and found Jaihan already there, standing by the window with a glass of whiskey. Did I wake you? He asked. I wasn't asleep. You? Same. She poured herself water and stood next to him. Seoul spread out below them, a million lights in the dark. My mother knows, Adriana said quietly. I know. You know? She asked me this evening, after you went to bed, point blank, on did I marry you because of the inheritance deadline. Adriana's stomach dropped. What did you say? I said yes. That's how it started. Then I told her it's not how it is now. What did she say? She asked me what my intentions were, whether I was going to hurt you. He took a sip of whiskey. I told her I would try very hard not to. Try? I don't know how to do this, Adriana. Any of this. I've spent 14 years making sure no one gets close enough to matter. And then you showed up crying in a hallway, and somehow in 5 weeks, you've gotten closer than anyone has in my entire adult life. The confession hung in the air between them. I don't know how to do this either, Adriana said softly. I came to Seoul to work and send money home and survive. I didn't plan on any of this. Do you regret it? She turned to look at him. Really look at the careful way he held himself, the walls he'd built so high, the tiny cracks she could see forming. No, she said. I don't regret it. He set down his glass, turned to face her fully. They were close enough that she could see the exact moment he decided something. Your mother asked me when I knew I wanted to marry you. I lied and said it was gradual. But the truth is, I decided in about 3 minutes. The second you explained the situation, I knew I was going to say yes. Why? Because I've been watching you for months. Because you're kind in a world that punishes kindness. Because hearing you cry felt like something breaking, and I wanted to fix it. He paused. And because for the first time in 14 years, I wanted something that wasn't about business or duty or survival. I just wanted to help you. Adriana couldn't breathe properly. Jae-han, I'm not asking you for anything. I'm just being honest. That was the agreement. He left the kitchen before she could respond. Adriana stood alone, heart racing, and realized she was in trouble. Deep trouble. The falling in love kind of trouble. Her mother stayed for 5 days. She cooked with Adriana, talked with Mrs. Lim through gestures and laughter. Charmed Sungmin completely, and she watched Adriana and Jae-han with knowing eyes. On her last night, she made dinner for everyone. Nigerian food that filled the apartment with smells that made Adriana homesick and comforted all at once. Jae-han ate 3 servings. You're going to make yourself sick, Adriana said. Worth it. Her mother smiled like she'd won something. At the airport, her mother hugged Adriana tight. That man loves you, she whispered. He doesn't know how to say it yet. Maybe he doesn't even know it himself. But he does. Mama, it's complicated. Love is always complicated. That's what makes it worth it. She pulled back. Whatever this started as, it's real now. Don't waste time pretending it isn't. The flight was called. Her mother left. Adriana stood at the airport and felt something shift inside her chest. Week 7 brought news that made everything stop. Halmoni was declining faster than expected. The hospital called. Jae-han left immediately. Adriana went with him. They found her sleeping, smaller than before, fragile in a way that hurt to see. When she woke, her eyes found Jae-han first, then Adriana, and she smiled. Over the next week, they visited every day, sometimes twice a day. Adriana would sit with Halmoni, while Jae-han handled business calls in the hallway. She'd hold the old woman's hand, and they'd communicate through broken Korean and gestures and smiles. One afternoon, Halmoni squeezed her hand and said in careful English, "You love him." Adriana's eyes widened. It's complicated. Love is simple. Everything else is complicated. Halmoni's grip tightened. He needs you. He doesn't know how to need people. You teach him. I don't know how. You already do, just by being here, by being warm when he is cold, by staying when he expects you to leave. Tears burned Adriana's eyes. I'm scared. Good. Love should scare you. Means it's real. That night, Halmoni passed away. Peaceful. Quiet. I'm with Jae-han on one side and Adriana on the other. She'd held both their hands until the very end. The funeral was 3 days later. Traditional. Formal. Filled with people Adriana didn't know. She stood next to Jae-han through all of it. He didn't cry, didn't break, just stood there like stone. But his hand found hers during the service, held on tight. She held back just as hard. After everyone left, after all the rituals were done, they went home in silence. Jehan went straight to his room, closed the door. Adriana gave him an hour. Then she knocked. "I'm fine," came his voice. "No, you're not." Silence. "Can I come in?" More silence. Then, "Yes." He was sitting on the floor by the window, just sitting, staring at nothing. Adriana sat down next to him. "You don't have to stay," he said. I know. I'm not good company right now. I don't care." They sat in silence for a long time. Then, quietly, Jehan started talking. About his grandmother. About how she'd found him after his parents died, violent and angry and broken. How she'd refused to give up on him. How she'd taught him that strength wasn't about walls. It was about choosing what mattered and protecting it. She told me once that I'd know I was healing when I let someone see me completely and didn't flinch. His voice cracked slightly. "I haven't let anyone see me in 14 years. I'm seeing you right now." He turned to look at her. His eyes were red but dry. "I know," he said. "That's what scares me." Adriana reached out and took his hand, laced their fingers together. "You don't have to be scared with me." Something in his face broke, just for a second. Then he pulled her close, wrapped his arms around her, and held on like she was the only solid thing in a tilting world. They stayed like that for a long time. Week 8. Week 9. The apartment felt different after Halmoni died. Quieter, heavier. Jehan threw himself into work, came home late, ate dinner standing up. Adriana gave him space, but made sure food was waiting. Made sure the lights were on. Made sure he knew she was there. Slowly, he started coming back. Started eating at the table again. Started asking about her day. Started being present instead of just existing. Week 10 brought a message from Attorney Hahn. Reminder that the 6-month mark was approaching. Divorce paperwork would be filed in 2 weeks, unless otherwise instructed. Adriana stared at the email for 20 minutes. 2 weeks. Somewhere in the last 10 weeks, she'd stopped thinking about the end date, stopped planning what came next, just lived in the strange, comfortable present they'd built. But the end was coming, whether she'd planned for it or not. She needed to start looking for an apartment, figure out what she'd do next. The divorce settlement would give her options she'd never had before. She should be excited. This was what she'd signed up for. 6 months. Then freedom. Then her own life. The thought made her feel hollow. Jehan came home that night and found her at the kitchen counter with her laptop, looking at apartment listings. He stopped in the doorway. "What are you doing?" "Planning. We have 2 weeks left. I need to figure out where I'm going." His face went carefully blank. "Right, of course." He started to leave. Wait," Adriana said. "Can we talk about this?" "What's there to talk about? The arrangement was 6 months. It's been almost 6 months. You need to plan your next steps." "Is that really all you want to say?" "What do you want me to say, Adriana?" "I want you to tell me what you're thinking." He turned back to face her. "I'm thinking that you're looking at apartments in neighborhoods far from here. I'm thinking that you're already planning to leave. I'm thinking that I knew this was temporary, and I still let myself." He stopped. "Let yourself what?" "Nothing." "Forget it." "No." "Say it." "I let myself forget this was an arrangement. I let myself get used to you being here. I let myself want things I had no right to want." His voice was tight. "That's on me, not you." Adriana stood up. "What if I got used to it too? Then we're both idiots who forgot the terms of our own contract. What if I don't want to follow the contract anymore?" The words hung there. Jehan stared at her. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I don't know if I want to leave. I'm saying the last 10 weeks have been strange and complicated and somehow the best thing that's happened to me in years. I'm saying I think I'm falling in love with you, and that terrifies me. But here we are." Silence. Complete silence. Then Jehan crossed the room in 3 strides, took her face in his hands and kissed her. It was nothing like Adriana imagined a first kiss should be. It was desperate and searching, and felt like someone finally saying something they'd been holding back too long. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Jehan rested his forehead against hers. "I signed the divorce papers this morning," he said quietly. Adriana's stomach dropped. What? Attorney Han sent them early. I signed them first thing. Because that's what we agreed. Because I thought I was supposed to. He pulled back to look at her. I've spent my whole life doing what I'm supposed to do, following agreements, keeping my word. And the entire time I was signing those papers, all I could think was that I was making the biggest mistake of my life. Then why did you sign? Because I didn't think I was allowed to ask you to stay. Because you deserve better than being tied to someone like me. Because I'm so used to people leaving that I thought I'd make it easier by letting you go first. Adriana's eyes burned. Mon, you're an idiot. I know. I don't want to leave. I don't want you to leave. So what do? We tear up the divorce papers. We start over. We do this for real this time. He cupped her face again. If that's what you want, that's what I want. He kissed her again, softer this time, like they had all the time in the world. But there was still one thing left to do. I want to go to the restaurant, Adriana said the next evening. Jaehan looked up from his computer. Gumsong. Yes, room 3 specifically. Why? Because that's where this started. In that hallway, with me crying and you overhearing. I want to go back there, see how it feels now that everything is different. So they went. Friday evening, 6 months to the day from when Adriana had taken that phone call. The staff recognized her immediately. Their eyes went wide, seeing her walk in with Jaehan, not as his server, but as his wife. The hostess showed them to room 3 without being asked. Adriana sat in the chair she'd served from 100 times, looked around the room that had been part of her routine for so long. I used to hate this room, she said. It felt cold, lonely. It was cold and lonely. I came here to be alone. Why? Because alone felt safer than anything else. He reached across the table and took her hand. You changed that. You changed everything. A server brought their drinks, left quickly. They sat in the quiet, private room, and Adriana felt the whole journey of the last 6 months. The panic, the impossible deadline, the stranger who'd offered her a solution, the slow unraveling of walls, the unexpected falling. I was so scared that night, she said softly. I thought my whole world was ending. It was ending, your old world, to make room for this one. Do you believe that? That things end so new things can start? I didn't used to, but I'm starting to. They ordered dinner, ate slowly, talked about everything and nothing. When the meal was done, Jaehan pulled an envelope from his jacket. What's that? Adriana asked. The divorce papers, the ones I signed. Her stomach flipped. Why did you bring them? He opened the envelope, pulled out the documents, set them on the table between them. Then he took out a lighter. What are you doing? What I should have done the second I realized I was in love with you. He lit the papers on fire. They watched them burn in the small dish the restaurant used for incense. Watched 6 months of contractual arrangement turn to ash. That was probably illegal, Adriana said. Definitely illegal. Attorney Han is going to kill me. We'll just file new papers. Marriage papers that aren't about arrangements or timelines or solving problems. Just about choosing each other. Yeah, just that. He stood up, held out his hand. She took it. They left room 3 together, walked past the hallway where she'd cried 6 months ago, past the kitchen where she'd worked for 2 years. In the car, Adriana said, My sisters are going to lose their minds when I tell them this whole story. Are you going to tell them the whole story? Eventually. Right now, I'm just going to tell them I'm staying married to you, and they're going to have to come visit. They're welcome anytime. You say that now. Oh, wait until you meet them in person. They're chaos. Good. That house needs more chaos. That night, they sat in the kitchen where so many important conversations had happened, where Adriana had cooked meals that made the apartment smell like home, where they'd learned each other slowly. What happens now? Adriana asked. Now we live. For real this time. No contract. No end date. Just us figuring it out as we go. That's terrifying. Completely. I'm glad we're doing it anyway. Me too. Sungmin walked in to get water, saw them sitting close together, actually smiling at each other, and shook his head. Finally, he muttered. I've been waiting 3 months for you two to figure it out. You knew? Adriana asked. Everyone knew. You were the only two who didn't. After he left, Jaihan pulled Adriana closer. "For the record," he said quietly, "I started falling for you the 19th Friday you served my table. You laughed at something the sous chef said, and the sound carried all the way to room 3. I remember thinking I'd never heard anything that alive. That was 3 weeks before the phone call. I know. So you were already falling before I cried in the hallway." "Yes. Why didn't you say something?" "Because men like me don't get to have things like you. We don't get warmth and laughter and someone who makes a house feel like home. We get what we build through control and power and careful planning." He touched her face gently. "Then you needed help. And suddenly, I had an excuse to be near you, to bring you into my life. I told myself it was practical, a solution to mutual problems. But it wasn't. No, it was me being selfish and calling it strategy. I'm glad you were selfish. Me too." 6 months after the phone call that changed everything, Adriana stood in the kitchen of her home, her real home, with her husband, her real husband, and felt something she hadn't felt in the 3 years since her father died. Peace. Her family was protected. Her future was secure. And somehow, impossibly, she'd found love in the last place she'd expected to look. Before we wrap this up, I need you to do something for me. If this story moved you, if you felt those butterflies, if you're happy Adriana took that chance, hit that subscribe button. Share this with someone who needs to hear a story about unexpected love. Drop a comment telling me what part made your heart race. Now let's see where they are 1 year later. 1 year later, when Adriana opened the restaurant doors at 6 p.m. on a Friday. Not Gumsong, her own place. Small, warm, serving Nigerian and Korean fusion food that had Seoul food bloggers losing their minds. The reviews called it unexpected, daring, absolutely delicious. Adriana called it home. Mrs. Lim worked in the kitchen with her. Sung-min handled security, though he mostly just sat at the bar and tasted new recipes. Her sisters had visited twice, fallen in love with Seoul, and were already planning their university applications. And every Friday at 6:30, Jaehan came in and sat at the same table in the corner. His table. Adriana brought him his order, the special menu she made just for him, and sat down across from him. "How was your day?" she asked. "Long. I'm better now." "Charmer. I learned from the best." They ate together while the restaurant filled up around them. Young couples, families, business dinners, all of them enjoying food that came from Adriana's heart and hands. After service ended, after the last customer left, after the staff cleaned up and headed home, Adriana and Jaehan walked back to their apartment hand in hand. The same apartment, but different now, filled with photos. With plants Adriana insisted on buying, even though she killed half of them. With the sounds of her video calls with her family. With warmth. "I got a letter today," Jaehan said as they got ready for bed. "From Halmoni's lawyer." "What kind of letter?" "She left something for you. Wanted me to give it to you on our first anniversary." He handed her an envelope. Inside was a note in shaky handwriting, half Korean, half English. "My dear Adriana, if you are reading this, it means my stubborn grandson finally told you he loves you. It means you stayed. It means I was right. I knew from the moment I met you that you were the one who would save him. Not from danger, not from his work, from himself. From the walls he built so high he forgot what it felt like to be warm. Thank you for being brave enough to stay. Thank you for teaching him that love is not a weakness. Thank you for bringing light into our family. Take care of him. Let him take care of you. Build something beautiful together. You already started. Keep going." With love, Halmoni Adriana read it 3 times, tears streaming down her face. Jaehan wrapped his arms around her from behind. She knew, even then, she knew this was real. She saw what we couldn't see yet. Smart woman. The smartest. They stood like that for a long moment. Then Adriana turned in his arms. "Thank you," she said softly. "For what?" "For hearing me that night, for standing up, for offering me a way out, for being honest even when it was hard, for letting me in, for staying when you could have left, for all of it. Thank you for saying yes, for taking a chance on a stranger, for making my house a home, for teaching me what it feels like to be chosen. He kissed her forehead. For staying. Always. Always is a long time. Good thing we already signed the paperwork. He laughed. The sound still surprised her sometimes. How free it was. How real. They'd gotten married again 3 months ago. A real wedding this time. Small. Her family flew in. His people came. They said vows they meant in front of people they loved. The second marriage certificate hung in his office next to the burned remains of the divorce papers he'd framed as a reminder. A reminder that sometimes the best things come from the worst circumstances. That sometimes a cry for help in an empty hallway is actually a door opening. That sometimes the person you need finds you exactly when you need them most. Adriana had come to Seoul to survive, to work, to send money home, to make it through each day. She'd never planned on falling in love with a dangerous man who heard her crying and decided to stand up. But looking back now, lying in bed next to her husband in their home, filled with warmth and light and the smell of whatever she'd been experimenting with in the kitchen, she couldn't imagine her life any other way. "What are you thinking about?" Jae-han asked, running his fingers through her hair. "About how I cried, that I needed a husband in 24 hours. And I found so much more than that." "What did you find?" "Home, family, partnership, love, a future I didn't know I was allowed to want." "You're allowed to want everything. I know that now. You taught me that. You taught me first." They fell asleep like that, wrapped around each other, safe and warm and chosen. And in the morning, they'd wake up and do it all again, build their life piece by piece, run their businesses, love their families, fight sometimes and make up faster, cook together and eat together, and exist in the simple, extraordinary magic of being seen and staying anyway. It started with 24 hours and a desperate cry. It became forever, and a choice made every single day. Some people get swept up in romance. Adriana and Jae-han built theirs with honesty and time and the stubborn refusal to let fear win. And it was messy and imperfect, and absolutely everything they didn't know they needed. The waitress who cried in a hallway. The boss who heard her and stood up. 6 months that became forever. A contract that became a love story. And a marriage that started as survival and became the most real thing either of them had ever known. Everyone in Seoul knew 3 things about Hyun Seo-jun. 1. He ran an empire from a wheelchair with more power than most men had standing. 2. He was connected to things polite society did not mention out loud. 3. He did not smile. Ever. Not at victories. Not at family dinners. Not in 20 years. His penthouse was museum quiet. His life was perfectly controlled. Then Lydia Desta became his 7th housekeeper in 14 months and committed the ultimate crime. She talked. About everything. About nothing. About the weather, her sister, and why his apartment looked like it was decorated with sadness. He told her to stop. She smiled and kept going. He tried to fire her. Somehow, she stayed. And somewhere between her 3rd week and his grandmother's ultimatum to get married, the impossible started happening. The corners of his mouth began to remember what they were built for. Hyun Seo-jun had not smiled in 20 years, 4 months, and 16 days. Not at board meetings where men twice his age stammered through presentations. Not at family dinners where his grandmother ruled the table like a general. Not even when his company stock hit record highs and Secretary Yang practically bounced into his office with the news. The man simply did not smile. He sat now in his wheelchair behind a black desk that looked like it could survive a bombing, staring at his 7th potential housekeeper's resume. The agency had stopped sending people. 6 women in 14 months had quit, and the reviews they left were almost identical. Too quiet. Too cold. Too much like working in a tomb. Secretary Yang cleared his throat. "Sir, the candidate is here. Miss Lydia Desta. She's from Ethiopia. Her Korean is decent. References are clean. Send her in." The door opened. Lydia Desta walked into Hyun Seo-jun's office, wearing a black skirt, white blouse, and the kind of smile that made the room feel smaller. She had her hair pulled back, simple earrings, and she was looking directly at him. Not at the wheelchair, not at the view behind him, at him. "Good morning," she said, her accent wrapped around the Korean words like she was still getting used to their shape. "I'm Lydia. You're Mr. Hyun. This building is really tall. I counted 47 floors on the way up, but the elevator buttons only go to 45, so I'm not sure what happened to the other two." "Are they secret?" Secretary Yang made a choking sound. Seo-jun stared at her. Nobody asked him about the private floors. Nobody asked him anything that wasn't carefully rehearsed. "Sit," he said. She sat, folded her hands, kept smiling. "The position requires discretion," he began. "I'm very discreet. Silence during working hours. I can be quiet. No personal phone calls in shared spaces. That's reasonable. No rearranging furniture or decor without explicit permission." Lydia tilted her head. "Is that because you like things a certain way? Or because you don't like change?" The room went so quiet you could hear the air conditioning hum. Secretary Yang looked like he wanted to climb out the window. Seo-jun leaned forward slightly. His voice dropped. "Miss Desta, do you want this job?" "Yes." "Then why are you asking questions that have nothing to do with cleaning?" "Because I'm going to be in your space every day, and I'd like to know if you're particular because of preference or because of control. It helps me do my job better. Honest, direct, completely unafraid." Seo-jun had people investigated for less bold behavior. He had ended business partnerships over a misplaced word. But this woman sat across from him like they were discussing the weather. "You start tomorrow," he said, 6 in the morning. Secretary Yang will provide you with the entry codes and rules. Break any of them, and you're dismissed immediately. Understood?" "Understood." She stood, bowed politely, then paused at the door. "Also, the plant on your desk is dying. It needs less light and more water, just so you know." She left. Secretary Yang waited exactly 10 seconds. "Sir, should I call the next candidate?" "No, she'll do. But I know what she did." Seo-jun turned his chair toward the window. "She's either brave or stupid. Either way, she won't be boring." The next morning, Lydia arrived at 5:53. She met Secretary Yang in the lobby, received a tablet with 72 rules, 11 emergency contacts, and a floor plan of the penthouse that looked more complicated than it needed to be. "Mr. Hyun is very private," Secretary Yang explained, as they rode the elevator up. "He doesn't like small talk. He doesn't like noise. He especially doesn't like people hovering." "Got it. Private. Quiet. No hovering. The previous housekeepers, they found it difficult. He's not unkind. But he's cold?" Secretary Yang winced. "Focused." The elevator opened directly into the penthouse. Lydia stepped out and tried not to react. She had cleaned houses before, nice ones. But this was different. Everything was gray, or black, or white. The furniture looked expensive and uncomfortable. There were no pictures on the walls. No plants except the dying one from yesterday. The whole place felt like a very elegant waiting room. "He's in his office," Secretary Yang whispered. "Don't disturb him before 9 unless it's an emergency. The kitchen is stocked. He takes coffee at 7, black, no sugar. Meals are in the binder on the counter. Any questions? Does he eat breakfast? He works through breakfast." "That's not what I asked." Secretary Yang blinked. I'll leave you to it." He left. Lydia stood in the massive, silent penthouse and made a decision. She pulled out her phone, set a timer, and got to work. By 7, she had cleaned the kitchen, dusted the living room, and started a pot of coffee that filled the space with something that actually smelled like life. She poured a cup, black, no sugar, and walked to the office. The door was half open. Seo-jun sat at his desk, eyes on 3 monitors, fingers moving across a keyboard. He was dressed in all black. His hair was perfect. His expression was carved from stone. Lydia knocked on the doorframe. He didn't look up. "Leave it on the table." She set the coffee down, turned to go, stopped. "The sun is really nice this morning," she said. His fingers paused on the keyboard. "Excuse me?" "The sun. It's coming through the east windows. Very orange. Thought you should know." "Why?" Because you've been staring at screens, and sometimes it's nice to look at something else. Now he did look up. His eyes were dark, unreadable. Are you always this talkative? Usually more, actually. I'm being professional right now. This is you being professional. I haven't even told you about the traffic on the way here. The corner of his mouth didn't move, but something in his eyes shifted. Don't. Very rude drivers. I saw a guy make a turn that I'm pretty sure broke physics. Miss Desta. Yes? Stop talking. Okay. She smiled. Enjoy your coffee. She left. Seo Jun stared at the place she'd been standing, then at the coffee, then at the orange sunlight coming through the east windows. He had not noticed the sun in 6 years. He drank the coffee. It was perfect. By the end of week 1, Lydia had learned 3 important things about Hyun Seo Jun. 1, he worked 16-hour days and pretended he didn't need sleep. 2, people were afraid of him, the kind of afraid that made delivery workers leave packages by the elevator instead of knocking. 3, he noticed everything. She rearranged a single book, and he mentioned it the next day. She used a different soap, and he asked if the supplier had changed. He didn't miss anything. So she started testing it. On day 8, she moved his coffee cup 3 inches to the left. Why is my cup moved? He asked that evening. The steam was hitting your mouse pad. I shifted it. Day 9, she played music while cleaning. Soft, instrumental, barely audible. He appeared in the hallway. What is that? Music. It's from back home. Do you want me to turn it off? He listened for 5 seconds. Keep it low. Day 10, she cooked lunch, way too much, and left half of it covered on the counter. At 3 in the afternoon, she came back from cleaning the guest rooms and found the plate empty in the sink. She grinned. Hey, if you're enjoying this story so far, do me a quick favor. Tap that like button. It actually helps more than you think. And stick around, because what happens next is going to surprise you. On day 14, Secretary Yang pulled her aside during a supply delivery. You're lasting longer than the others, he said quietly. Is that unusual? The last woman quit on day 4, said she felt like she was working for a ghost. He glanced toward the office. Mr. Hyun, he's not always been like this. Lydia kept, her voice casual. Like what? So closed off. There was an accident years ago. He doesn't talk about it. Doesn't like people asking. I wasn't going to ask. Good, because the last person who did got fired on the spot. Lydia nodded, but her mind was working. She had noticed things. The way Seo Jun gripped the wheels of his chair when he was frustrated. The locked drawer in his desk that sometimes clicked open late at night. The phone calls he took in English, low and clipped, that made the air feel heavy afterwards. This man was not just rich and cold. He was buried under something. That night, she was cleaning the hallway when she heard a sound from the office. A sharp intake of breath, tight and controlled. She should have walked away. Rule number 34. Do not disturb Mr. Hyun during private matters. She walked toward the office instead. The door was cracked open. Inside, Seo Jun sat with his back to her, one hand gripping the arm of his wheelchair, the other pressed against his leg. His shoulders were tense. Lydia knocked softly. Do you need anything? No. His voice was strained. Are you sure? Leave. She should have listened. Instead, she pushed the door open a little more. If you're in pain, I can. I said, leave. He didn't turn around, but his tone could have frozen water. Lydia hesitated, then stepped back. Okay, I'm going. But there's tea in the kitchen if you want it. The kind that helps with tension. She left before he could respond. The next morning, the tea was gone. Week 3 started with rain, the kind of heavy gray rain that made Seoul look like a painting. Lydia arrived early, shook out her umbrella, and found Seo Jun already awake, sitting by the window. He wasn't working. He was just sitting, staring out at the rain. Morning, she said carefully. He didn't respond. She made coffee, brought it to him, and set it down without a word. As she turned to go, he spoke. Do you like the rain? She stopped. He had never asked her a personal question. Yes, it's nice. Why? Because it makes everything slow down. People can't rush in the rain. They have to just be. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, that's a good reason. It was the longest conversation they'd had. That afternoon, a woman arrived at the penthouse unannounced. She was older, 60s maybe, dressed in a way that made even the expensive furniture look cheap. She walked in like she owned the place. Lydia was in the kitchen. The woman spotted her immediately. "Who are you?" the woman asked. Not rude, just direct. "I'm Lydia. I work here. Can I help you?" "I'm Madame Hyun, Seo Jun's grandmother." She studied Lydia with sharp eyes. "You're new." 3 weeks. "You're lasting longer than the others?" "So I've heard." Madame Hyun smiled slightly. "Make me tea. Not the expensive kind. The kind people actually drink." Lydia blinked. "Okay." She made barley tea, the kind she'd brought from the Korean market near her apartment, because it reminded her of a drink from home. She poured 2 cups and set one in front of Madame Hyun. The older woman took a sip, nodded. "Good. Sit." "I should." "Sit." Lydia sat. "You're from Ethiopia," Madame Hyun said. It wasn't a question. "Yes, ma'am. What brought you to Seoul?" "Work. My sister wants to study here. I'm saving to bring her over." And you took a job cleaning houses. It pays well. Better than what I'd make back home." "Do you find my grandson difficult?" Lydia chose her words carefully. "I find him private." "That's diplomatic." Madame Hyun's eyes glinted. "He's been private for a long time. Too long. This house is too quiet. I've noticed. Have you also noticed he comes out of his office more than he used to?" Lydia paused. "Does he?" "Secretary Yang reports to me. He says Seo Jun has been taking lunch, drinking tea in the evenings. Small things." She leaned forward. "What are you doing differently?" "I'm just doing my job." "No. You're doing something else." Madame Hyun stood. "Keep doing it." She left before Lydia could ask what she meant. That evening, Seo Jun called Lydia into his office. She went, confused, and found him holding a small box. "My grandmother was here," he said. "Yes, she's nice. She likes you." "Is that bad?" "It's unusual. She doesn't like most people." He slid the box across the desk. "She left this, said to give it to you." Lydia opened it. Inside was a simple bracelet, silver, delicate. "I can't accept this," she said immediately. "You don't have a choice. When my grandmother gives a gift, you take it." He paused. "What did you two talk about?" "Tea. My sister. Nothing important." "She doesn't do nothing important." Lydia looked at him, really looked. He seemed tired, not physically, but in a deeper way. "Are you worried about something?" "No." "You're a bad liar." His eyes snapped to hers. "Excuse me?" "You do this thing with your jaw when you lie. It tightens." She mimicked it without thinking. For 3 full seconds, Hyun Seo Jun just stared at her. Then he said, very quietly, "Get out." "Was it something Out." She left, heart pounding. The next morning, there was a note on the kitchen counter in sharp, clean handwriting. "You're right. I do that with my jaw." Lydia smiled for the rest of the day. Week 4 brought a shift. Seo Jun started appearing in shared spaces more often. He'd work at the dining table instead of his office. He'd take calls in the living room. Small things, but noticeable. And he started asking questions. "Where in Ethiopia are you from? How old is your sister?" "Why Seoul and not another city?" Lydia answered honestly. And in return, he started offering small pieces of himself, his favorite food. The fact that he hated mornings, that he'd studied in the US for 2 years before the accident. He never mentioned what the accident was. She never asked. But one evening, while she was cooking dinner, he rolled into the kitchen and watched her work. "You don't have to cook for me," he said. "I know. But I'm cooking anyway, and it's easier to make extra. The contract says meals prepared, not shared. Are you telling me to stop?" He hesitated. "No. Then I'll keep doing it." She set a plate in front of him. He stared at it. "This is Ethiopian," he said. "Yes. Doro wat. It's chicken stew, very common back home. You didn't make Korean food. You've had Korean food your whole life. Thought you might want something different." He picked up a fork, tried it, and went very still. Is it bad? Lydia asked, suddenly nervous. No. He took another bite. It's good. Really good. She beamed. My mom's recipe. I'll make injera next time. It's a bread. You eat it with. I know what injera is. Oh, have you had it? Once, years ago. Business trip to Addis Ababa. He glanced up at her. I didn't think I'd taste it again. Something in his voice made her chest tighten. Well, now you can have it whenever you want. He didn't respond, but he finished every bite. That night, Lydia called her sister. How's the job? Hannah asked, bright and excited. It's good. Different. Different how? My boss is complicated. Complicated bad or complicated interesting? Lydia thought about Seo-jun eating her mother's recipe in silence, about the way he listened when she talked, about the fact that he hadn't smiled once, but sometimes she caught him looking almost peaceful. Interesting, she said finally. Ooh, is he cute? Hannah, I'm just asking. Focus on your entrance exams. I am. I got my scores back, by the way. High enough for Seoul National University. Lydia's heart jumped. Hannah, that's incredible. I know. Which means I need to apply soon. Which means I know. I'm working on it. She glanced toward the office, where light still glowed under the door. I'll have enough. I promise. After she hung up, she sat in her small room off the kitchen and did the math again. 6 more months. Maybe 8. Then she could bring Hannah over, pay the tuition, and they'd be together. She could do this. She had to. The next day, Madame Hyun returned. This time, she didn't come alone. Lydia opened the door to find her standing with 2 other women, both younger, both dressed like they were attending a business meeting. Is my grandson here? Madame Hyun asked. He's in a conference call. Good. We'll wait. They swept in. Lydia made tea, because apparently that was her role now, and tried not to eavesdrop. She failed. You can't be serious, one of the women was saying. A marriage clause? At his age? The board is concerned, Madame Hyun replied calmly. Seo-jun is brilliant, but he's isolated. They want stability, a family image. So you're forcing him to marry. I'm giving him options. He can choose someone suitable, or I'll choose for him. The other woman laughed. He'll never. Agree. He will, because he knows what's at stake. Lydia's hand stilled on the teapot. Marriage clause? What? Before she could process it, Seo-jun's office door opened. He came out, saw the gathering, and his entire demeanor shifted. Colder, sharper. Grandmother, what is this? A conversation. Sit. I'm working. You're always working. Sit. He sat. Madame Hyun gestured to the 2 women. You remember Miss Park and Miss Choi, both from good families, both interested. Seo-jun's jaw did the thing Lydia had mentioned. You're not serious. I'm completely serious. The board votes in 6 months. You need a wife before then, or they'll vote to restructure your position. Let them vote. Seo-jun. I'm not marrying someone because of a board's opinion. Then you'll lose the company your father built. The room went dead silent. Seo-jun's face was a mask. You would let that happen. I would let you make your own choices, but I will not let you self-destruct out of pride. Madame Hyun stood. 6 months. Find someone or I'll arrange it myself. She left. The 2 women followed, both glancing back at Seo-jun with expressions Lydia couldn't read. When the door closed, Seo-jun sat motionless. Lydia should have stayed quiet, should have gone back to work. Instead, she said, That was intense. His head snapped toward her. How much did you hear? Enough. And it sounds like your grandmother is very determined. She's manipulative. She's worried. You don't know her? I know she came here twice in 4 weeks. That's not manipulation. That's care. He stared at her. You have an opinion on everything. Usually, yes. It's exhausting. So I've been told. She picked up the tea tray. For what it's worth, marrying someone you don't know sounds terrible. I hope you find a better option. She left him sitting there. What she didn't see was the way he watched her go, something shifting in his expression. What she didn't know was that she'd just given him an idea. A terrible, brilliant, completely insane idea. 3 days after Madame Hyon's ultimatum, Seo-jun worked until 2 in the morning, slept for 3 hours, and made a decision that would have seemed impossible 6 weeks ago. He was going to ask his housekeeper to marry him, not romantically, not emotionally, contractually. It made perfect sense in the coldest, most logical way. Lydia needed money for her sister. He needed a wife in name only. She was already living in his space, already knew his routines, and most importantly, she didn't look at him with pity or fear or calculation. She just looked at him like he was a person who happened to be in a wheelchair. That alone made her better than every option his grandmother had paraded through. He spent the morning working out terms, compensation, timeline, expectations. By noon, he had a contract drafted. By evening, his nerves, something he hadn't felt in years, were trying to surface. He ignored them. At 8, he called Lydia into his office. She arrived in casual clothes, her shift technically over, looking curious. "Is everything okay?" "Sit." She sat, folded her hands, waited. Seo-jun realized he had no idea how to start this conversation. "You heard what my grandmother said," he began. "About the marriage thing?" "Yes. I have 6 months to find a wife or lose my position as CEO. That seems extreme. It's business. Image matters." He paused. "I've considered the options she provided. I'm not interested in any of them." "Okay. So I'm proposing an alternative." Lydia tilted her head. "What kind of alternative?" He slid a folder across the desk. "A contract marriage. 1 year. You'd live here, attend events as needed, and present as my wife publicly. In exchange, you'd receive a sum large enough to bring your sister to Seoul, cover her university tuition, and leave with significant savings." Silence. Lydia opened the folder. Her eyes scanned the first page, then the second. Her expression didn't change, but her hand stilled. "You want to hire me as your wife?" she said slowly. "Yes." "Like a job." "Exactly like a job. Seo-jun, this is beneficial for both of us. You need money. I need a solution. This provides both." She looked up at him. "This is completely unhinged." "Is that a no?" "I didn't say that." She flipped another page. "Separate rooms. Separate wings, if you prefer. No physical expectations?" His face remained neutral, but his voice was firm. "None. This is a professional arrangement." "What about your family? Your grandmother?" "They'll believe what we show them. And when the year ends, we divorce quietly. You leave with the money, I keep my position. Clean ending." Lydia sat back. Her fingers drummed on the folder. "Let me see if I understand. You want me to pretend to be your wife for a year, lie to everyone, including your grandmother, and then just walk away like it never happened. Yes, that's your plan. It's a good plan. It's insane. You said that already." She laughed. Actually laughed. The sound filled the quiet office like something foreign. "You really don't see how weird this is?" "I see exactly how weird it is. I also see that it solves both our problems." "What if I say no?" "Then I'll find another option, and you'll continue working here until you've saved enough, which, based on your current salary, will take approximately 3 years. Lydia's expression shifted. He'd done the math, and she knew it. "Can I think about it?" she asked. "You have 24 hours. She stood, folder in hand. "Okay. I'll give you an answer tomorrow." She made it to the door before he spoke again. "Lydia." She turned. "I know it's strange," he said quietly, "but I wouldn't ask if I didn't think you could handle it." Something in her eyes softened. "I'll think about it." That night, Lydia sat in her small room and read the contract 4 times. The money was real, enough to change Hana's entire life, enough to give her sister opportunities they'd only dreamed about. But marrying her boss? Even fake marrying him? She called Hana. "Hey," her sister answered. "What's wrong?" "Why do you think something's wrong?" "Because you never call this late." Spill. Lydia took a breath. If someone offered you a lot of money to do something weird but not dangerous, would you do it? How weird. Like, pretend to be married. Weird. Silence. Then Hana said very carefully, "Is your boss asking you to fake marry him?" "How did you?" "Lydia, I watch dramas. This is literally a drama plot. Oh my God, is he asking you? Maybe. Hana screamed. Actual screaming. Stop, Lydia hissed. This is serious. This is amazing. What did you say? I haven't answered yet. What's the problem? Is he terrible? No, he's complicated. But not terrible. Is he paying you enough to get me to Seoul? Lydia looked at the contract. Yes, and then some. Then what are you waiting for? Say yes. Hana, it's not that simple. Why not? It's a job. A weird job, but still a job. And if it gets me to university and gets you financial security, what's the problem? Lydia didn't have a good answer. After they hung up, she sat with the contract and realized her sister was right. This was weird. Completely, totally weird. But it was also an opportunity. The next evening, she found Seo Jun in his usual spot, working late. I have an answer, she said. He looked up. His expression was controlled, but she'd learned to read the small signs. The slight tension in his shoulders, the way his fingers stilled on the keyboard. He was nervous. And, he asked, I have conditions. Name them. 1. We tell no one it's fake. Not your grandmother, not Secretary Yang, no one. If we're doing this, we commit. Agreed. 2. You treat me like a person, not an employee. I'm not going to be ordered around. I can do that. 3. If at any point this gets dangerous, emotionally or otherwise, we renegotiate. He nodded slowly. Fair. And 4. She met his eyes. When this is over, we walk away clean. No drama. No mess. That's the plan. She took a breath. Okay. Okay? Yes. I'll do it. For the first time since she'd met him, Hyun Seo Jun looked genuinely surprised. You're agreeing? Don't make me change my mind. The corner of his mouth almost moved. Almost. When can you start? Start what? Being my fiancé. We'll need to make it public soon. How soon? This week. Lydia's eyes widened. That's very fast. My grandmother doesn't wait. The faster we move, the less suspicious it looks. Okay. So what? We just announced we're engaged? We have dinner with my grandmother first. Let her think she influenced the decision. You want to manipulate your grandmother? I want to manage her expectations. There's a difference. Lydia shook her head. You're unbelievable. Is that a compliment? I haven't decided yet. This time, his mouth definitely moved. Not a smile. But something close. If you're still watching, I need you to do something for me real quick. Drop a comment and tell me what you think Seo Jun's grandmother is going to say when she finds out. I read every single one. The dinner was planned for Saturday. Madam Hyun's estate in the hills. Formal dress required. Lydia spent 3 days panicking. I don't have formal clothes, she told Seo Jun on Wednesday. I'll have something sent. I don't know how to act around rich people. You've been around me for 6 weeks. You're different. How? I don't know. You're weird rich. They're intimidating rich. He almost smiled again. Just be yourself. Myself got kicked out of a nice restaurant once for asking too many questions about the menu. Then ask fewer questions. That's terrible advice. Thursday, a dress arrived. Black, simple, elegant. It fit perfectly. Friday, Secretary Yang gave her a briefing on family members. Names, positions, who to avoid, who to charm. Mrs. Hyun's younger brother will be there, he said. He's going to ask invasive questions. Just smile and deflect. Deflect how? Say something vague and change the subject. I'm bad at vague. Then say something charming. I'm better at that. Saturday arrived. Seo Jun's driver picked them up at 5. Lydia wore the black dress. Seo Jun wore a dark suit. They looked like they were attending a funeral. Nervous? He asked as the car wound through the hills. Terrified. Don't be. You've already met her. She likes you. She liked me as the housekeeper, not as the fake fiancé. She doesn't know it's fake. That makes it worse. He glanced at her. You can still back out. And lose the opportunity to see you squirm through a family dinner? Never. He actually huffed, almost like a laugh. I don't squirm. Everyone squirms around family. I don't. 20 minutes later, they arrived. The estate was huge, not modern like Seo Jun's penthouse. Old, traditional, the kind of place that had history in the walls. Madam Hyun met them at the entrance. She looked at Lydia, then at Seo-jun, then back at Lydia. "You're wearing the bracelet I gave you," she said. Lydia touched her wrist. "Yes, ma'am. It's beautiful." "It was my mother's." Madame Hyun's eyes glinted. "I only give it to people I trust. I'll take good care of it. I know you will." She turned to Seo-jun. "You're late." "Traffic." "You're always late. Come, everyone's waiting." They followed her inside. The dining room held 8 people. Seo-jun's uncle, a man with sharp eyes and sharper questions. 2 cousins, both watching Lydia like she was a puzzle. An aunt who smiled but didn't mean it. And a few others Lydia couldn't remember from Secretary Yang's briefing. She was introduced as Seo-jun's girlfriend. The room went silent. "Girlfriend," the uncle said. "Since when?" "Recently," Seo-jun replied calmly. "How recently?" "Does it matter?" "It matters when you've been famously single for a decade and suddenly appear with me," Lydia finished. She smiled brightly. "I know, it's surprising. I was surprised too." The aunt leaned forward. "How did you meet?" "I worked for him." "Worked?" "I was his housekeeper." You could have heard a pin drop. The uncle's face went through several expressions. "You're dating the help?" "I'm dating Lydia," Seo-jun said. His voice was ice. "Her previous job title is irrelevant." "Grandmother," the uncle turned to Madame Hyun. "You can't possibly approve of this." Madame Hyun sipped her tea. "Why wouldn't I?" "Because she's foreign? Educated? Charming?" Madame Hyun set down her cup. "All qualities I appreciate." Lydia tried not to gape. Dinner was served. It was the longest meal of Lydia's life. Questions came from every direction. "Where are you from? How long have you been in Seoul? What do your parents do? Do you speak Korean well? What are your intentions?" She answered honestly when she could, and vaguely when she couldn't. Seo-jun stayed beside her, a quiet, steady presence. At one point, his cousin, a man named Min-jae, leaned over. "You've got everyone talking. That's impressive. Is that good or bad? Depends on what you want." "I want to eat dinner without feeling like I'm being interviewed," Min-jae laughed. "Good luck with that." After dinner, Madame Hyun pulled Lydia aside. They stood in a hallway lined with family portraits. Seo-jun's father, his grandfather, generations of Hyun power. "You handled yourself well," Madame Hyun said. "Thank you. My grandson is not an easy man. I've noticed. He's been alone a long time, by choice. I know. Do you know why?" Lydia hesitated. "Not entirely." Madame Hyun studied her. "When he was 23, there was a car accident. He was driving. His best friend was in the passenger seat." She paused. "The friend didn't survive. Seo-jun lost the use of his legs and the ability to forgive himself." Lydia's chest tightened. "He's been punishing himself ever since," Madame Hyun continued, "keeping everyone at a distance, working himself into the ground. I've watched him disappear into that penthouse, and I couldn't reach him." She looked directly at Lydia. "But you did." "I didn't do anything." "You made him come out of his office. You made him eat meals. You made him notice the sun." Madame Hyun's voice softened. "That's not nothing." Lydia didn't know what to say. "Whatever is between you two," Madame Hyun said, "real or complicated, or somewhere in between, don't let him retreat again. Promise me that." "I promise." They returned to the dining room. Seo-jun was waiting by the door, his expression unreadable. On the drive home, he was quiet. "Your grandmother told me about the accident," Lydia said gently. His hands tightened on the armrest. "Did she?" "I'm sorry. That must have been horrible." "It was a long time ago." "Doesn't make it less horrible." He turned to look out the window. "I don't talk about it." "Okay. Most people push, try to get me to open up. I'm not most people." He glanced at her. Something in his face shifted. "No, you're not." They rode the rest of the way in silence, but it wasn't uncomfortable. The engagement was announced 3 days later. Secretary Yang handled the press release. Simple, clean. Hyun Seo-jun, CEO of Hyun Group, is engaged to Lydia Desta. Private ceremony planned. The response was immediate. News outlets picked it up. Social media exploded. Half the comments were supportive. The other half were vicious. Gold digger. Foreigner. What does she want from him? Lydia made the mistake of reading them once. She didn't do it again. Seo Jun found her in the kitchen that evening, staring at her phone. "Stop reading," he said. "I'm not." "You are. Your face does this thing when you're upset." "What thing?" "Your eyebrows scrunch together." She touched her forehead. "They do not." "They do." She set the phone down. "People are mean." "People are always mean. Ignore them." "Easy for you to say." "It's not easy. But it's necessary." He rolled closer. "This is going to get worse before it gets better. If you can't handle it, tell me now." "I can handle it." "Are you sure?" She met his eyes. "Yes." He nodded. "Good. Because tomorrow, we're doing our first public appearance." Her stomach dropped. "Where?" "Charity gala. Very public. Very visible. I don't know how to gala. You'll be fine. Seo Jun. Just stay close to me. I'll handle the rest." The gala was everything Lydia feared. Hundreds of people in formal wear. Cameras everywhere. Whispers following them like a shadow. She wore a deep blue dress that Secretary Yang had sent over. Seo Jun wore black again. They arrived together. The moment they entered, conversation stopped. Lydia felt every eye on them. Seo Jun's hand found hers. "Breathe." "I'm breathing." "Good. Keep doing that." They made their way through the room. People approached. Introductions were made. Lydia smiled until her face hurt. And then Lim Tae-woong appeared. He was tall, polished, and his smile didn't reach his eyes. "Seo Jun," he said smoothly. "I heard the news. Congratulations." Tae-woong. Seo Jun's voice was flat. And this must be the lucky woman. Tae-woong turned to Lydia. "Lydia, right? From Ethiopia?" "Yes." "How exotic. Tell me, how does one go from housekeeping to engagement? That's quite the promotion." The insult was wrapped in politeness, but it landed like a slap. Lydia kept smiling. "Well, I'm very good at cleaning. Turns out that includes cleaning up misconceptions." Tae-woong's smile faltered. Seo Jun's hand tightened on hers. "If you'll excuse us," Seo Jun said coldly. "We have people to see." They moved away. "I don't like him," Dia muttered. "No one does." "Why is he here?" "Because he's a rival, and he's trying to undermine me publicly." "Is it working?" "Not even close." The rest of the evening passed in a blur. By the time they left, Lydia's feet ached and her head pounded. In the car, she slumped against the seat. "You did well," Seo Jun said. "I wanted to punch that Tae-woong guy." "So did I." "Really? He's been a problem for years." "What kind of problem?" Seo Jun hesitated. "The kind that uses every weakness he can find. My disability. Now you." "I'm not a weakness." He looked at her. "I know." Something passed between them. Quiet. Significant. Lydia broke the moment. "So what now?" "Now, we go home. Rest. Prepare for the next event." "How many events are there?" "Enough." She groaned. He almost smiled. The next morning, Lydia woke to her phone ringing. It was Hannah. "I saw the pictures," her sister said immediately. "You looked amazing. Also, your fake husband is very handsome. You didn't mention that." "It's not relevant." "It's very relevant. Have you seen his face?" "Hannah, I'm just saying, if you have to fake marry someone, you did well." Lydia laughed, despite herself. "How are your applications going?" "Good. I should hear back in a few weeks." Hannah paused. "Lydia, are you okay? Really okay?" "Yes, I promise. Because this whole thing is insane." "I know. But if it works, it'll work." After they hung up, Lydia sat in her room and let herself feel the weight of it all. The lies. The performance. The fact that she was living in a penthouse with a man who barely smiled, and yet somehow made her feel safer than anywhere else. This was temporary, she reminded herself. 1 year. She could do 1 year. What she didn't expect was how quickly the lines would start to blur. 2 months into the arrangement, Lydia's sister arrived in Seoul. Hannah came through the airport gates with 2 massive suitcases, a backpack that looked like it might contain her entire childhood, and a smile that could light up the whole terminal. Lydia saw her and burst into tears. They hadn't seen each other in person for 2 years. Video calls were not the same, not even close. Stop crying, Hannah laughed, hugging her tight. You're embarrassing me. I don't care. I missed you. I missed you too. They pulled apart. Hannah looked around. So where's your super serious fake husband? He's not here. He's working. Of course he is. Hannah grinned. Let's go see this fancy place you're living in. The drive to the penthouse took 40 minutes. Hannah spent the entire time asking questions. About Seoul, about the job, about Seo-jun. Is he nice? She asked. He's complicated. You keep saying that. What does it mean? It means he's not warm and fuzzy, but he's not cruel either. He's just different. Different good or different weird? Both. When they arrived, Seo-jun was in his office. Lydia knocked lightly. Come in. She opened the door. My sister's here. I wanted to introduce you. He looked up. Now? If that's okay. He glanced at the screen, then back at her. Give me 5 minutes. Thank you. She went back to the living room, where Hannah was staring at everything like she'd walked into a museum. This place is unreal, Hannah whispered. How do you live here and not feel like you're going to break something? Very carefully. 5 minutes later, Seo-jun emerged from his office. Hannah straightened immediately. Lydia made the introductions. Seo-jun, this is my sister Hannah. Hannah, this is Hyun Seo-jun. Hi, Hannah said brightly. Thank you for letting me stay here. I promise I won't be a bother. Seo-jun studied her for a moment. You're starting at Seoul National University? Yes, if I pass the final interview. You'll pass. How do you know? Your sister talks about you constantly. You're clearly brilliant. Hannah beamed. Lydia tried not to look shocked. Seo-jun rarely gave compliments. Do you need help getting settled? He asked. Oh, no, I can. Lydia will show you to your room. If you need anything, let her know. He nodded politely and returned to his office. Hannah waited exactly 3 seconds. Okay, he's hot and nice. What's the catch? Hannah, I'm serious. You said he was cold. He is cold. That was, I don't know. That was him being polite. If that's him being polite, I want to see him being warm. Lydia rolled her eyes. Come on. Let me show you your room. The room was in the guest wing. Clean, spacious. Better than anywhere Hannah had ever stayed. She dropped her bags and flopped onto the bed. I can't believe this is real. Believe it. How long do I get to stay? As long as you need. Hannah sat up. Lydia, seriously, thank you. For everything. I know this whole fake marriage thing is weird, but it's worth it. You're worth it. They hugged again. Over the next few days, Hannah settled in. She explored the neighborhood, studied for her interview, and despite Lydia's warnings, she started talking to Seo-jun. A lot. Lydia came home one afternoon to find them in the living room. Hannah was sitting on the couch, Seo-jun in his wheelchair nearby, and they were talking. Actually talking. Wait, so you studied in Boston? Hannah was saying. For 2 years. Did you like it? It was different. Different good or different bad? Different cold. I wasn't used to snow. Hannah laughed. I want to see snow. Real snow. Not pictures. You'll see plenty this winter. Lydia cleared her throat. They both looked up. Hey, Hannah said. Seo-jun was telling me about Boston. I heard. Did you know he almost got kicked out of a library once for arguing about a book? Lydia blinked. What? Seo-jun's face remained neutral, but there was something in his eyes. It was a misunderstanding. He argued with a librarian about translation accuracy, Hannah continued, delighted, for 30 minutes. She was wrong, Seo-jun said simply. Lydia tried not to smile. Of course she was. Later, when Hannah was in her room, Lydia found Seo-jun on the balcony. You're good with her, she said. She's easy to talk to. You don't talk to anyone. I talk to you. That's different. How? Lydia paused. I don't know. It just is. He looked at her. The city lights reflected in his eyes. She reminds me of my younger cousin, before everything got complicated. You miss that. I miss a lot of things. It was the most honest thing he'd ever said to her. For what it's worth, Lydia said softly, I think you're a good person. You don't know me well enough to say that. I know you let my sister stay here. I know you talked to her about libraries and snow. I know you're not as cold as you pretend to be." He didn't respond, but he didn't look away either. The moment stretched. Then his phone rang. He glanced at it. His expression shifted. "I need to take this." "Okay." He left. Lydia stayed on the balcony and wondered when exactly she'd started noticing the way he looked at her. The final interview for Hannah's university placement came a week later. She was a nervous wreck. "What if I mess up?" she asked at breakfast. "You won't," Lydia said. "What if they ask something I don't know?" "Then you say you don't know and explain how you'd find the answer." "What if, Hannah?" Seo Jun set down his coffee. "You're prepared, you're intelligent, and you're overthinking. But, no buts, you'll do fine." Hannah stared at him. "You really think so?" "I don't say things I don't mean." She relaxed. Okay, I can do this." After she left, Lydia turned to Seo Jun. "Thank you." "For what?" "For being kind to her." "I'm not being kind. I'm being honest." "Still, it means a lot." He nodded, went back to his coffee. But Lydia saw the way his shoulders had loosened, the way he'd looked at Hannah like she mattered. He was changing, slowly, quietly, and so was she. That afternoon, Secretary Yang called Lydia into Seo Jun's office. "There's a situation," he said. Lydia's stomach dropped. "What kind of situation?" Seo Jun leaned back in his wheelchair. "Lim Tae-woong is making moves. He's been talking to board members, spreading rumors." "What kind of rumors?" "That our engagement is fake, that you're being paid." Her heart stopped. "How does he know?" "He doesn't. He's guessing. But he's loud, and people listen." "What do we do?" "We prove him wrong." Seo Jun's voice was steady. "There's an interview scheduled, a major network. They want to talk about us, about the engagement, about how we met. And you think that'll stop him?" "I think it'll make him look desperate." Lydia took a breath. "Okay. When?" "This week." "That's fast." "It has to be." She nodded. "Then let's do it." The interview was set for Thursday, a lifestyle show. Soft lighting, comfortable chairs. The host was a woman in her 50s, with a warm smile and sharp eyes. Lydia wore a cream-colored dress. Seo Jun wore his usual dark suit. They sat side by side. The cameras rolled. "So," the host began, "you two have become quite the topic of conversation." Seo Jun nodded. "So I've heard. How did you meet?" "Lydia worked for me," he said calmly. "She was my housekeeper." "And that turned into romance?" Lydia smiled. "Not immediately. He was very professional at first." "Very cold, you mean," the host teased. "I didn't say that. But you thought it." "Maybe a little." The audience laughed. The host turned to Seo Jun. "What changed?" He paused, looked at Lydia. "She did." "How so?" "She didn't treat me differently. Most people see the wheelchair or the name or the reputation. She just saw me. It wasn't in the script. He'd gone off book. Lydia's heart did something complicated." "And you?" the host asked Lydia. "When did you know?" "Know what?" "That you loved him." The room went quiet. Lydia's mind raced. This wasn't part of the plan. They'd rehearsed answers, safe answers. But the host was waiting. The cameras were rolling. She looked at Seo Jun. His face was unreadable, but his eyes were asking her to trust him. "I don't think it was one moment," she said slowly. "I think it was a lot of small things. The way he listened when I talked. The way he remembered details I didn't think mattered. The way he made space for my sister without hesitation." She paused. "He acts like he's made of ice, but he's not. He's just careful. And I don't blame him for that." The host smiled. "That's beautiful." The rest of the interview passed in a blur. When it was over, they left through a side exit. The car was waiting. Inside, Lydia let out a breath. "That was intense. You did well. I went off script." "So did I." She looked at him. "Did you mean it? What you said about me seeing you?" He met her eyes. "Yes." "Oh." They rode in silence, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was heavy with things neither of them knew how to say. The interview aired 2 days later. It went viral, not for scandal, for sweetness. Clips circulated. Comments poured in. The narrative shifted. Suddenly, they weren't a CEO and his housekeeper. They were a love story. Lim Tae-woong's rumors lost traction. Madame Hyun called that evening. "I watched the interview," she said. Lydia braced herself. And you two are either very good actors, or something real is happening. Don't lie to me, child. I've lived too long to be fooled. But her voice was warm. Whatever this is, I approve. After she hung up, Lydia found Seo-jun in his office. "Your grandmother called." "I know. She called me too." "What did she say?" "That she's pleased." He looked up. "And that she expects a real wedding within the year." Lydia's eyes widened. "What did you tell her?" "That we'd discuss it." "Seo-jun, we can't." "I know." He paused. "But we have time to figure it out." She nodded, but standing there, looking at him in the low light of his office, she realized something terrifying. She didn't want to figure it out. She wanted it to be real. A month before the contract was set to end, everything fell apart. Hannah came home one afternoon, her face pale. "What's wrong?" Lydia asked immediately. "There are people outside my campus, reporters. They were asking about you, about Seo-jun, about whether the marriage is real." Lydia's blood ran cold. "What did you say?" "Nothing. I just left." "But Lydia, they know where I go to school. They know who I am." Seo-jun appeared in the hallway. "What happened?" Hannah explained. His face darkened. "Pack a bag," he said to Hannah. "You're staying here until this settles. I can't just—" "Yes, you can." His voice was firm. "I'll handle it." He made 3 phone calls. By evening, security was stationed outside the university. The reporters were removed, and a very polite but very firm statement was released by Hyun Group's legal team, but the damage was done. "This is because of me," Lydia said that night. She and Seo-jun were alone in the living room. "Because I agreed to this insane plan. This is because Tae-woong is desperate. It's my fault. Lydia, I should have said no. I should have—" "Stop!" He rolled closer. "This is not your fault. Do you understand me?" She looked at him. His face was serious, determined. "I brought you into this," he said quietly. "If anyone's to blame, it's me. You gave me a choice, and you made it. And now I'm going to protect you, both of you. How? By ending this the right way." Her heart sank. "What does that mean?" "It means we go public. We tell the truth. Seo-jun, if we do that, you lose everything. Not everything. Your position, the company, your grandmother's trust. I'll figure it out." "No," she stood. "No, we're not doing that." "Then what do you suggest?" "We finish the contract. We keep going. We don't let him win." He stared at her. "You're willing to keep doing this?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because I don't want it to end. Because somewhere along the way this stopped being fake. Because I think I'm falling for you, and I don't know how to stop." She didn't say any of that. Instead, she said, "Because we made a deal, and I keep my promises." Something in his expression cracked, just slightly. "Okay. Okay? We keep going." She nodded. But that night, lying in her room, she knew the truth. This wasn't about the contract anymore. This was about something much more dangerous. The next few weeks were tense. Seo-jun increased security. Hannah stayed close to home, and Lydia tried to pretend everything was normal. But it wasn't, because Seo-jun started doing things he'd never done before. He asked her to have breakfast with him, not because it was part of the act, just because. He watched movies with her and Hannah in the evenings. He laughed, actually laughed, at Hannah's terrible jokes and Lydia's stories and the way they argued about which Korean drama was the best. One night, Hannah fell asleep on the couch. Lydia covered her with a blanket. "She's happy here," Seo-jun said quietly. "She is. Are you?" Lydia looked at him. "Yes." "Good." They sat in silence. Then Seo-jun said, "I need to tell you something." Her heart skipped. "Okay. The contract ends in 3 weeks." "I know. And when it does, you're free to leave. Take the money. Start over." "I know that too." He looked at her. Really looked. "What if I don't want you to leave?" The world stopped. "What?" she whispered. What if I asked you to stay? Not as part of a contract, not as a fake wife, just stay. Seo Jun. I know this is complicated. I know I'm not easy. But somewhere along the way, this stopped being an arrangement. His voice was raw. You made me laugh, Lydia. You made me feel human again. And I don't want to lose that. Tears pricked her eyes. You're serious. I've never been more serious. But your grandmother, the company, everything we've built on lies. We'll tell the truth. We'll deal with the fallout. Together. Together. If you want. She didn't answer with words. She crossed the space between them and kissed him. It was soft. Tentative. Real. When she pulled back, he was staring at her like she'd just rewritten his entire world. Is that a yes? He asked. Yes. He smiled. Fully. Completely. It was the most beautiful thing she'd ever seen. Before we wrap this up, I want to hear from you one last time. What part of this story hit you the hardest? Comment below, and if you're new here, hit that subscribe button because we've got more stories coming that you won't want to miss. They told Madame Hyon the truth 2 days later. Sat in her estate, explained everything. The contract, the arrangement, the way it had changed. She listened without interrupting. When they finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, I knew. Lydia's eyes widened. What? I knew from the beginning. You think I built an empire by being naive? She smiled. I knew it was a contract. I also knew my grandson needed someone who wouldn't let him hide. Seo Jun looked stunned. You knew, and you said nothing? Because I wanted to see if it would become real. And it did. She stood. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to get married. A real wedding this time. And you're going to stop lying to yourselves about what this is. Grandmother. No arguments. I've already planned the menu. Lydia laughed. She couldn't help it. Seo Jun looked at her, then at his grandmother. Then he smiled. The wedding was small, intimate, just family and close friends. Hana cried through the entire ceremony. Madame Hyon looked smug. And when Seo Jun and Lydia exchanged vows, real ones this time, there wasn't a dry eye in the room. At the reception, Hana gave a speech. My sister once told me she took a job to help me go to university. She said. What she didn't tell me was that she'd end up finding a family. Seo Jun, you're scary and serious, and you don't smile enough. But you love my sister, and that makes you okay in my book. The room laughed. Seo Jun stood, raised his glass. To Hana, for reminding me that family isn't just blood. And to Lydia, for refusing to let me disappear. They toasted. Later, when the guests had left, and it was just the two of them, Lydia and Seo Jun sat on the balcony. So, she said, we're really doing this. We really are. No more contracts. No more contracts. She leaned against him. I never thought I'd end up here. Neither did I. Do you regret it? He looked at her. Not for a second. She smiled. And he smiled back. 20 years, 4 months, and 16 days. That's how long Hyun Seo Jun went without smiling. But now, sitting beside the woman who'd walked into his life with too many words, and not enough fear, he couldn't stop. And he didn't want to. 1 year later, Hana graduated top of her class. The whole family attended. Madame Hyon in the front row. Lydia was crying before the ceremony even started. Seo Jun was holding her hand, and pretending he wasn't emotional. At dinner afterwards, Hana told a story about her first week in Seoul. She tripped over the punchline in Korean, then insisted her version made more sense anyway. Seo Jun laughed, loud, full, unguarded. The whole table stopped. Lydia grinned at him. There he is. He squeezed her hand. Here I am. And for the first time in 20 years, Hyun Seo Jun wasn't hiding. He was home. If you made it this far, thank you for sticking with this story. Drop a comment letting me know what you thought. And don't forget to subscribe because we've got so many more stories like this coming your way. See you in the next one.